Thanks for reminding me.
I wish mic mute worked for me.
Do you use a separate amplifier or
Yeah.
whatever? Yeah, it doesn't seem to
Yeah.
work for those.
I have to because this mic requires phantom power, so it like requires it, I think.
Yeah, well, you have what's it, XLR mic or whatever?
Yeah.
Yep. I'd like to switch to that. It would make Mel and I's audio much better, but it's a big investment to switch when we have like the best USB mic, like one of the best USB mics on the
Yeah,
market.
yours sounds really good for sure for being USB. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, but I would love to make that switch because you could do a whole bunch and just really kind of fix your audio before, so the live stream sounds as good as the actual audio pod, but what are you going to do? All right, I'm tweeting out retweets appreciated. And we will look at this. I've subbed for a long time.
Wow. Wow, Blazzinbob, thanks for the thanks for the tier 1 sub. 33 months. Oh.
You crazy son of a bitch. All right. I think everything's good. What am I forgetting? I'm forgetting something. I'm always forgetting something. No? Recordings are good. Oh, Steel Wolf was going to come on today, but he's too tired. Weenie.
We're streaming. I'll leave it at that. Finding new ways to ditch us.
One of these days, he's been playing like a madman. He's got Steel Wolf to 70, and Anna I saw is at 65. He's already got his other Horde character worked up. You guys played a ton.
Dang.
All right. We just like mute is working. Sweet. All right. I think we're ready to go. This is just for me. Welcome to Warcraft Reloaded, a podcast brought to you by Mash Those Buttons, covering World of Warcraft Classic, TBC Classic, and its community. I am Bobby, also known as Blazzinbob, and today we're joined by Ryan, aka CognitivePit. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Had some issues at the house we're selling. Had a little leak that I had to go deal with all day today, but other than that, I'm good. I think I did an excellent job. The whole getting a house ready to sell really turns you into quite the handyman. So overall, doing pretty good.
This is pretty
Like a
crazy.
never-ending cycle though, right? I remember when we were selling our house, I was painting the baseboards, and every time I painted something, I realized I needed to paint something else. And I was like, "Oh man."
Yeah, the painting was the worst.
Well, and with water, it always amazes me that the thing that is most vital to us as humans does the most damage to houses. I mean, it could be worse than fires. It's just nuts.
Yeah, or you sit in the pool too long and your fingers are pruning. Like, what? Water, what are you doing?
Oh, man. And we're also joined by Mel, aka Melarina. How are you doing?
Hello. Good.
Good. All right. Well, guys, it's gonna be a good show. It's gonna start off with us talking about, housekeeping, a couple of reviews, what we've been doing lately in WoW. Then we'll talk a little bit about the arena tournament that happened today, as of this recording, which is Friday night for us, but you'll be hearing it Monday. And we'll talk about the new test that they're doing in BGs. That's interesting. The Midsummer Fire Festival. And then at the end, kind of the bummer topic that usually we wouldn't talk about those types of things on the podcast because we're not journalists. We talk about the game. But this one, it's one we kind of feel we need to talk about, so we're going to do it, even though we don't want to. But with that said, I'd like to remind everybody we do stream live on Twitch every Friday night, usually around 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific p.m. It's twitch.tv/mash those buttons. Come in and hang out, say hi. We would really appreciate it. But if you don't come, we still appreciate you downloading this on iTunes and Spotify or wherever you get your pods. So with that being said, yep, we had some reviews.
We did have some reviews. So the first one, hey gang, been listening since around Nax pre-patch and been hooked since. Always gets me stoked to get home to play while listening to the show at work. Love the podcast. Keep up the great work. Nick LOL from Grobulus. P.S. For the Alliance! I do want to say, this is no reflection of Grobulus as a whole, but I met the single most toxic person in Eye of the Storm this week from Grobulus.
Oh my god, he was horrible.
Just absolutely ridiculous, but that's okay.
Was I there?
Thank you. Well, I'm not gonna.
I don't think I was there.
I don't think
you
were there.
so.
I think it was when we were running our 5-man hit squad where we rarely lost a game after we were pre-mating. But we'll talk about that and what we've been doing. But I do want to say I really appreciate this review because those are my favorite types of pods too, is when I can't play a game and I can listen to them talk about it and just get excited for it when I get home. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. The next one is from Lunar Fox. And both of these are on Warcraft Radio, by the way. Excellent group of people with great insights into all the roles, tank, healer, and DPS. When the only complaint you have is that the show needs to be longer and more frequent, you have an excellent podcast on your hands. I purposefully save the shows for when I work at night, but that only helps me through a portion of 1 day out of 5. I need more. Thank you for all that you do to help with the IRL grind. Go by a little more pleasantly for the Horde. I'm gonna read the second part.
For the Horde. Try to give it justice.
I'll read the second part in a second, but I do want to say, I guess we have to do 5 podcasts a week. I feel like we're pretty frequent and long, but I guess if we have to get you through every shift, we'll give you a call on Discord and just talk to you about WoW for.
Yeah, I feel like
Right.
too much of a good thing turns it into a bad thing. I mean, the reason the show turned into a long show is because we felt wrong about cutting it short. But I mean, we really give you our all every week, and so I'm sorry we don't have enough, but we give you our all.
And then they say #Garrosh did nothing wrong. Gorvax. P.S. What about the idea for faction imbalance be offering one-time free 58 boosts on a server per server basis to the smaller faction? Some rules to combat botting might require a pre-existing 70 of said overpopulated faction or something. Oh, so actually getting rid of that brings up there are a lot of issues with which would allow people to have the same or different factions on the same account. In retail, they've removed that because there's no PvP servers anymore. Unless you have to delete your horde. You have a 70 horde and you can delete it for a 58 boost. That I'm much more into. But #Garrosh did nothing wrong. He literally nuked Theramore. I know these two don't play retail, but he literally nuked Theramore with like some kind of arcane bomb that killed everybody.
So you're saying he was like Khaleesi at the end of Game of Thrones? I'm not going to give too much.
Whoa.
Yeah, I'm not going to give any spoilers, but you know what I'm talking about. A little crazy, right?
Yeah, and then Jaina Proudmoore gets her revenge on the Khaleesi. Yep, I do remember that happening. But yeah, Garrosh definitely did a couple of things wrong. But I have a newfound appreciation for my Horde brothers and sisters because they've been pretty extra whiny lately, and it's feeling like, hey, we're all the same. We're all the same kind of people.
We are all the same. We're just on a different side.
You don't like Horde pre-mades now either?
History
are.
is written by the winners. We're all people.
And finally, we actually had a review through Discord. Hey guys and gals, I started listening to you guys around pre-patch from a recommendation from a fellow reviewer, Quantum. And I honestly love the show. The dynamic points of view with healer / DPS and tank, loose term as Yip plays warrior, are great. That hurts. Super keen to hear how you guys progress through TBC and keen to hear how good feral druids are, Yip. You'll be hearing more and more of that, I'm sure, as harder and harder content comes out. And then he has, should I read this next part as well, too? Any
If you
thoughts?
want to, I mean, we're going to kind of talk about it.
I'm gonna go for it. I'm
Go
gonna go
for
for it because it makes my points always ever increasingly strong.
it.
As an ex Argo player, on Alliance, of course, all of this faction imbalance talk gets me just as heated as Yip and Bob have been about it. I have now transferred to a PvE server, which sucks because I've always loved PvP servers. And as Bob says, PvE is kind of boring, but when you have more limited time than 14 years ago and friends that play casually, it's the only way to get things done without
Yeah.
losing your mind. Our goal was 55-45 when I made the transition from Horde to Alliance late last year, and now it is 65-35, and I only see it getting worse. Dailies will be impossible for us. Questing is getting harder by the day, but all anyone seems to care about is BG queues for Horde and how they can't play the game. Well, neither can we. Different issues. I rerolled Alliance mainly for TBC and quicker BG queues, as I like casual and more serious BGs. But if Horde get these queues, then fuck me, I guess. Then, right? WoW is going down a dark path for sure. Now, this sounds like I wrote it as like the perfect anecdote, the anecdote to my points entirely. And this is from Slinger, from Argyle to Remulos. These people exist. A lot of people on Alliance know from Phase 2 that rerolling, and he actually rerolled Faction, which is interesting as well too. But just rerolling PvP to PvE, and this is someone who loves PvP servers, so it's just something to really wrap your head around.
What's funny is we had Willie on the show last week, and he did the same thing towards, like, I don't know if it was during Nax or right before Nax or during AQ, but he moved from PvP to PvE also, and he was an all Alliance player that just had gotten fed up. And yeah, so it's funny we didn't actually touch on that last week.
Yeah, but I mean, it is a large population of people who've done that. So my whiny complaints aren't entirely unrealistic. But thank you guys for your great reviews.
Yeah, I will say the Horde on Whitebane been kind of living peacefully lately. Like, maybe it's because the toxic ones are in BGs. I mean, maybe, but they won't always be there.
We've also been in BGs and not out in the world, so I don't know that our sample size is as large.
Yeah, it could be also since I've been PvP spec. When I am out in the world, I become the terror no matter what. So it's sort of like
Yeah, they do
it's a
kind
little
of.
lopsided once you're geared.
Yeah, once you're geared, like, and being PvP spec and in resilience gear in the world, like, you really do kind of strike fear, especially as a warrior. It's been pretty fun.
Yeah, it definitely has been.
All right, guys. So, what have you guys been doing in WoW lately?
PvP.
That's what I've been doing too.
You jerk! You finally drew me in. I was
So
pressured
fun.
into BGing because I knew, and I mentioned. I think last week on the podcast, I probably said I haven't been playing that much because I've been trying not to burn out. I've just been sort of, raid logging, leveling my druid a little bit here or there, maybe getting some gold. And finally, I was offered respec money. I felt bad. It wasn't just like, hey, come help our pre-made. People were like, we just want to hang out with you. So why don't you come?
They really did. Yeah. I
And
mean,
so I was like,
we
all
did
right,
too.
like I should come. And I did. And of course, what I knew would happen is even in all PvE gear, except for a couple of pieces that I use for tanking, and just spare my sword from Karazhan, I still wreaked havoc out there on the battlefield, and it was so much fun. I stayed PvP all week. My Karazhan didn't take place till Thursday, so I got to PvP even longer without paying money, which was awesome. And all I
And
did was play an unbelievable amount of PvP. And what's the end?
and you crafted.
Oh, yeah, I immediately crafted Deep Thunder. So I
Ooh.
might have needed a small, a little lend from my good friend Blunder, and he gave me 1,200 gold, and I didn't need all 1,200 gold to finish blacksmithing from 360 to 375 and finish Thunder and Deep Thunder. So I was pretty psyched about that. So I thought it was going to
Sick.
take like thousands more gold, but I had a lot of mats, and then honestly, Fellsteel or the crafting for Fellsteel has gotten so cheap that the Fellsteel gloves were actually just a really easy way to get up. I think it probably cost me 1,000 gold from 360 to 375, and then I made a lot of that back in. Well, I want to say a lot of that back, but each of the gloves turns into like 20 gold worth of large prismatic shards. So it
Nice.
wasn't too bad at all. And Deep Thunder is incredible. That's all I have to say. Is
Yeah.
I
Speaking
remember
of
it.
speaking of Blunder, he almost got 400 gold from me because I was trying to send Bushy Bottoms a you know a payment for some of the money that Mel owes him, and for some reason it filled in wrong in TSM, and I was
That's
like,
my
wait,
nightmare, by the
hold
way.
on, Blunder?
Same.
Wait, no, hold on. And I actually fixed it right before I hit send. I was like, oh no. But I'm
I
sure
feel like the
Blunder
thing
would have
I the
sent
thing
it
I
back.
worry yeah, the thing I worry about the most is when I send myself gold from character to character,
Yeah.
and I'm like, "Wait, that is me, right?" Or like you log on and it bugs out and you don't have mail and you're like, "What?"
Yeah, I feel that way. But here's how that would have went down. Blunder would have messaged me, why did Bob send me 400 gold? And I just would have been like, "Oh, he's helping me repay you for Deep Thunder. Thanks."
Oh
Oh, yep,
man.
he's helping me repay
Well, I had
Bushy.
it. Yeah, I had it in the line. Hey, this is 400 of the 1800 Mel owes you. So mark that off the
Wow, keeping a
list.
record. You're a tight record keeper.
Well, and then Bushy was like, hey, you're the first person that's paid me back any of the things that I've lent him.
Well,
Oh man.
I got on to make spell strike pants for Kim, and he tried to give me 100 gold because I had the nether, and I was like, "No. First of all, I was only gonna give you 50 gold for the nether that you gave me, and I still haven't even given you that. So let's just call it even, okay?"
Hey, that works.
That's good
He's like, "Oh,
stuff.
do you owe me one?" And I was like, no. I don't know. I really need money, so maybe not."
I can imagine the amount of favors that Kim
Oh gosh, right?
is owed back that there's no way he can keep track of that.
No.
Yep. Yeah. So I had like a revelation. Like someone, you said last week that Lock Dude was my main, and I thought to myself, well, no. I mean, I think I've played Blazzinbob more than I've played Lock Dude at this point. So I just have two mains. I have a PVE main and a PvP main. I don't and they're both equally important. Like I put like the big enchants on both of them. Like they're both like they're not really.
Equally as expensive is what you mean.
Yeah, but they're not alts. You know what I mean? Like so I've been doing a ton of PvP. We actually we're going to talk about this like a lot of the PvP stuff when we get to the actual like tests that they're running. So I'm not going to go into it too much, but I've been having a blast. I'm up to 245 resilience, and I'm starting to be like a major tank. Like I have enough resilience now that I'm uncrittable in PvE. with my PvP set on, which you might want to look into,
You
Yip.
say that, Bob, please.
What?
I I wear resilience gear already. I've
No, but
it,
hold on,
but
hold on. Hear
it doesn't
hear
take
me out.
240 at all. It takes like even less than that, I
Yeah,
think,
yeah.
to
I'm
be
like
uncrittable.
I think I'm 75 over with your little weak aura that you sent me. But
Yeah.
hear me out. So defense gives you parry, dodge, all that, but
Yeah.
not getting hit doesn't give you rage. So I mean,
Whoa.
Why
Incredible,
wouldn't you
Bob.
just tank at this point with as much resilience instead of defensive gear? Like, wouldn't it be better for like rage? Or am I crazy?
Bob, incredible. Incredible feat of logic. That is why I have resilience gear on. That is why I have 15 resilience enchanted on my chest right now to have threat in other places. However, the
Well, you
biggest
act like I'm
problem.
dumb, like you've never told me this. So, like, I don't know.
I've definitely mentioned it on the podcast
I
before,
feel
But
but
like
I'm
Kip's
saying
offended, but
full
you don't think he
resilience.
knows this already.
because you'll die if you wear full resilience gear.
Really?
That's what it comes down to, is you will die.
Your healers
So
will probably hate you.
I mean, the biggest problem right now is that content right now isn't very difficult to begin with. So it wouldn't surprise me if you can do a lot of it in full resilience gear. Um, but you don't necessarily need to do that, because resilience gear, like rage is cool, but what's cooler than rage is just having better DPS options in other slots. So for me, wearing my ring from the Violet the Violet Signet, that's the DPS ring,
Yeah,
wearing
with
the
hit.
Expertise ring. Those sort of options usually balance out better with some defense involved as well too. But the biggest problem is just what items have resilience on them and the stats that they bring with them. So I've
Yeah.
always worn the bracers and belt, and I have the neck as well too, like the epic ones. Those are all pretty strong options. If you have gladiator gear, those are also really strong options. But the other resilience options just bring so little of other stats that it ends up
Like
just
the
not even being worth it at the end of the day.
you're talking about the blue pieces, right?
Yeah, the blue pieces, but pretty most pieces, because like you have resilience statted in, um, but it's just not. It takes up a portion of everything else as well too. So I might have a way more stamina on my raid level gear, and even for PvP, I'm happy to wear some of my raid gear, because like my curator, the pants from curator, have so much stamina on them that even other than gladiator pants, there's just nothing better than that right now for me. And I died at the end of Girl last week, so I feel like I've struck a
Do you know
strong balance.
why? Do you know why you died at the end of Gruel?
I'm well, I know specifically why, but I feel like you might have a different answer than me. Is it because
Because I wasn't
you
there.
weren't there? Weren't you there? This was last week. Were you not there last week?
Oh, not yesterday?
No, yesterday was
Oh,
well, we'll talk more about yesterday, but very
yeah, I
smooth.
was
I did
there
not
last
die.
week.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's because I got parry hasted. Uh,
Mm.
I he hasted. They weren't even crushing blows. It was just right after a shatter, and maybe healers were probably AOE healing during that time frame for everyone else, and then I just got smashed into the ground. But it was right at the end, so it
It is
didn't really matter at all.
it is crazy how much more stamina the Arena Epic gear has compared to the blue set. It's like for each of my
Yeah,
pieces, it's like 20 more. It's like double the stamina. Like for those pieces, it's pretty crazy. But
yeah.
yeah,
I mean, there are people in Fight Club who actually advocate just not even being crit cap for rage. It just doesn't even make a difference. And in this current content, I would probably agree that it doesn't really make a difference. I have so much health now that even if I get crit, I won't die. And then the amount of extra like DPS gear you could put on is a lot, but I think it's a little bit crazy. It's too far. that's
Too
like
far.
some that's some phase one Fury Prot Warrior
Right.
issues. We're charging and dying immediately.
Oh my gosh.
gotcha. Yeah, but basically I've just been PvPing a ton. I've been making gold pretty easy still. Although on our server, on my on my cloth cooldowns for the alts, I'm not even making shadow cloth because the profit at the moment's 5 gold. I'm not going to walk down there for 5 gold, you know. So I've just been making spell cloth and moon cloth because they're easy with alts, whereas the shadow cloth is kind of a pain. But besides that, that's basically what I've been doing. Mel, you got anything else?
Yeah, so oh, you guys, yesterday, so Kim keeps telling me that I need to post things during rush hour, which is very much not my MO because I just post things when I have them because I
Mhm.
always need money. Um, and but yesterday I had gotten like some mana thistle, and so I was like, okay, well I'm gonna make a couple flasks. And Bob was like, hey, will you send me one? And I was like, no, I need money. And he's like, well, you can just COD me for whatever it would cost. And I looked at the cost, they were going for like 85 gold. And I was like, 85 gold? And he was like, what? And so I only charged him like the market value, and then I posted it and it sold like almost immediately. So I went back and I made another. Literally in like 20 minutes it took me to like go get my stuff and make another one and send it to my alt. They were down to 75 gold. I was like, "What?"
And it always feels bad flasking for 30 minutes. Just like,
Mm,
Yeah. I
but
I wanna, someone in chat really quick is mentioning Marvtastic, is mentioning that mag cleave hits for 10k base, and if it crits you, you'll die. Um, Mag's average cleave hit on me is 7k. So factor that math into my 17k health, and I can live. Don't worry. But Mag also wear mitigation gear.
yeah.
Sorry, Mel. Go on.
No, you're good.
well, and
Um,
also you have to factor in like the the less crit damage that resilience pops in. If like he's hitting for 10k and you have 10% less crit damage, that's 9k. So like
I think isn't the crit damage reduction equal to the crit reduction? So you'd only have like
no, it's actually I'm sitting at 6% less chance to crit, but but like almost 12% less crit damage when they do crit.
yeah. Well, the big thing is that that's not the so this is gonna get a little too warrior, but people simmed having under crit cap if by removing resilience to have under crit cap, and they simmed it, and it looked like the chance of it actually making a difference in a fight was 1 in 1,000. I've been arguing with this guy for a long time about how that's ridiculous math, but the sim does show that if you're under crit cap through resilience, that it actually isn't worth all that much, and it's very rarely going to matter. But again, though, for Magtheridon, wear more mid gear anyway. It's
that one
Gotcha,
time it
gotcha.
does
good gear.
matter is gonna be really annoying.
Especially for Magtheridon. The most other boss fights in the current content is just sort of like whatever. But Magtheridon's like I have to go through phase one again. We
Yeah,
gotta do this whole thing all over again.
One
yeah,
other thing, I
no, for sure.
guess, is
What about Mel's week? Are we just done with
oh,
Mel's week?
sorry.
You got to talk about
We're not
I
done.
alchemy and
thought you
just,
told Yip you were done. My bad. Go ahead.
no. Well, I don't even have that much more to say, but now that I took the spotlight, I feel like I need to come up with it. No. Um, yeah, what I find is a lot of times with my professions is that I don't really have the money to buy the mats and then make the extra money. I mean, I do. It just seems like, oh, that seems bad. Um, but I did finally the first time took somebody up on trade to like use my primal might cooldown, and I was like 20 gold because it was like a 16 gold profit. So I was like, yeah, you can give me 20 gold for my cooldown. And he's like, "Yeah, sure." And then I was like, "Man, did I really undercharge?" And Bob's like, "He should have just gone and bought one off the auction house." And I was like,
Yeah, and sold his
"Well,
primals. Like, but people
it's like,
don't check. They don't check TSM, so they don't know. You know.
Well, I feel like it also has to do with
yes."
I feel the same way, and other people are like this. I think Blunder's another good example who like to just gather their own mats for stuff, and they'd rather not sell stuff on the auction house. It's just sort of a pain to do that. Like, yeah, I could
Mm.
sell this and then get the might, but I farmed these primals, and I would just like to turn the primals I made into what I'm getting. It's the same thing with like me gathering. I like herbalism and I like mining because I just like getting the materials and not to sell but to use, and it's just like more fulfilling even if it's less gold per hour. um it's still
But
just there's just
Mana
something special
Thistle,
about it.
I wish I could farm Mana Thistle, but Mana Thistle's turned into like the Black Lotus, right?
Yeah.
Where it spawns in very small areas and there's bots everywhere and all of that. So that's fine. But Yeah, other than that, we did arena and we
That
went
was
8 and
actually,
2 last week.
yeah, that was what I was going to bring up. We finally had success. Like we've just been doing 10 games a week just, to get points, and it's been pretty brutal, but we finally got enough resilience on both of our characters. We went in thinking we were going to have like the same 2 and 10 that we'd had every week prior, and we went 8 and 2, and I think maybe this weekend we're actually going to try like a 30 game actual try to try and push over 1500, because over 1500 is where you really start to get points. It's kind of like max you're going to get 250 under 1500, but I mean it's crazy because if you get over 2K you're getting 1,000 a week. Like it's so much of a big difference from 1500 to 2K, whereas below that you're really not getting much. And so we might see if we can make a push, because we're getting pretty beefy. Mel's getting really good at surviving. I think doing all the BGs, like we've been practicing a ton, learning a lot more, and it's been really fulfilling.
By
Yeah, I did
Mel's getting
some
really good at surviving, he means Mel's getting really good at running away.
Yeah, I mean
the
that's what you do
classic
as a
druid
Jew.
move.
Yeah,
That's the the classic. I did some arena with Kim and Stoof, and then also with Casmo on his mage, which was incredible. He's an incredible player, so that was a lot of fun. We did
I
threes,
bet.
and then I did twos with Kim and Stoof each, and it's fun how quick the queues go because
So
Uh-huh.
fast.
you don't even have time to be upset at a loss.
Yeah.
It was really good to just like dive into arena in twos, and it's like, okay, twos are already not getting the max points that you could be getting at pretty much any rating. So you don't really care about your rating that much to begin with. You're just kind of in there to learn, and you can just do that so well. Like we'd go against comps and be like, okay, that didn't work. How can
Yeah.
we
Yep.
like how do we fix that? Like, okay, Kim's going in PV spec or something with like low resilience. Like, how do we work around that? Let's abuse. It was actually kind of nice in threes. They would go in on him and kill him, but he had Spirit of Redemption because he was full holy,
Mm.
and then we would just kill everyone else while he was giving us even more heals than he was giving us before. So it was a lot of fun going in there and doing arena, and it's really not that tilting. I was really afraid that arena was going to be tilting for me, especially because I was pretty good in TBC, not better than I am now, but for the time better than than everyone else. But I was
Yeah.
afraid the skill level was going to be
Mhm.
super high, and I was afraid. I remember getting kited around the ruins of Lordaeron, that little centerpiece by druids, and just being so aggravated. And I was still a little aggravated, but I was
No,
afraid I'd be angrier.
see, now I can root, like, I can use entangling roots and they have to stop. It's
Well,
great.
and
I've
and I
gotten really
mean,
good at doing that.
just like different things, she was like, you know what? I should probably root melee instead of cyclone, because they can't get out of it. It lasts a lot longer. But those types of things you figure out. The biggest thing about doing arena with people is you just want to do it with people that are willing to talk and learn and not
Yeah.
tilt on you, because that just will make it unfun. People that blame everybody else for everything, like
Mhm.
everybody makes mistakes, and it's just great to play with people that are just chill. And I mean,
And
I
it gives us
assume
just
Stoof
enough
and Kim
time.
are.
Yeah, it gives us just enough time in between matches to be like, okay, so I probably should have done this, or this is why that didn't work. And then there's that one match every time that you're like, yep, that was just not gonna happen. We couldn't
And
beat them.
some of the, yes, two of the matches, Mel died, and I was able to win with them at like both. One of them was double DPS mage rogue. I was able to drop the rogue just a little bit after she died, and then the mage, like he probably should have beat me, but like I got a lucky mace stun
I
on
think it was
on on the
Warlock
on
Rogue.
the intercept. No,
Wasn't it a
no.
Warlock?
It was the other one was Warlock Druid. And I was able to
Okay.
drop the Druid because the Druid was out of mana by the time you died. And so I was able to drop the Druid, and then the lock, like I don't think he had enough resilience because he should have beat me too. So,
He
but
says Mel dies and he like saves the day, but Mel is also a druid, so she dies and he has like full hots.
yeah, but I mean, if you look at it, like you kept us alive long enough to run them out of mana. That's probably why also the mage died. The mage was probably out of mana and couldn't actually get away from me.
Yeah, there were many times, especially with Deep Thunder, where I could end up just 2v1ing after my healer died, and that's fun. And I kind of want to go back with the
Feels
Sweeping
good.
Strikes build that I ended up using, because I was like, man, like occasionally, especially with low resilience, like him and even Stoof and Mail and Plate would just die really quickly to like double rogue. And it's just in my
Oh, yeah.
head, I'm like, imagine Sweeping Strikes on those rogues. They'd be so upset with
Oh my gosh. There was this one um what was it, a warrior in a battleground that we were doing. It was Side of the Storm. And I just kept rooting and running around and rooting and cycloning. That guy hunted me the entire Eye of the Storm. Like it didn't matter. I could be at a base and 5 alliance and no horde going there, and he would come and try to kill me. Like he was so mad at me.
All right.
incredible.
Well, let's move on. Do you have anything to say about our Vargflocken raid progress?
Yeah, so we forgot to mention last week, and I wanted to, that we were gonna try High King Mulgar, the Zerg strat finally. So you didn't get to wait a week to hear how that went out. I can tell you right now that it's actually incredibly easy. All of our melee died immediately due to a really bad pull. I guess the mage guy that the mage is supposed to tank hit all the melee with some kind of magic stuff that he does. Who knows? It's not my job to do that part, so I don't know what he. But all of our melee died instantaneously, and I think it still was just an easier fight doing it that way. It still went faster. I feel like
Well,
the
and Skull was like almost dead when High King Mulgar died. So and Skull was not High King Mulgar. So I think part of the raid didn't get the memo, me included, for the first few spellcasts. But then I realized, oh yeah, we're supposed to do High King Mulgar. But yeah,
Well,
we didn't get the
interesting you
memo.
say that. You actually did get the memo. You just didn't listen to Harscare because he actually wanted you guys to Zerg the priest guy down first, then kill High King for our first attempt.
Oh,
So that's
okay.
why the skull wasn't on
So,
High King. Actually.
so I was wrong
Yeah,
on multiple levels.
you were right and then wrong.
Yeah,
And
dang
then
it.
and stayed wrong. But it didn't really matter. It was totally good. The most important thing for me is that, hey, I was able to hold threat pretty easily. I was pretty stoked. I was worried because High King's kind of nuts, and I've been reading people saying that they'll taunt, and then they'll like use their AOE, and then they'll taunt again, and then they'll mocking blow, and that's how they hold threat on there. I feel pretty good about my threat set right now. I'm really happy with my warrior, even though I got insulted in the reviews today. And then the last thing in my Karazhan, I was a little out of it because I had received some bad news last night. While I was doing about a leak in the house I had to fix up. But we went to Netherspite, and the week prior, someone had actually pulled Netherspite just by being too far in the room. So this week I said, hey, don't go in the room to buff up yet. Like eat out here.
Oh no,
Don't
I
go in the
know how
room.
this story ends. Oh my gosh.
And so I was like, okay, let's pull. And I go run in, and one of our two healers gets locked out of the room.
Yep, I knew that's how it's gonna go.
Which was pretty funny. I was like, oh yeah, I see. I guess I should have made sure everyone was in the room. I
Who
called
was
it.
it? Who was it?
It was our new shaman, Scarlin's new shaman. I don't know if I'm allowed to say his name, but it's Thick Bungus, I think. Uh, and he got locked out. So we just had a priest healing who is not one of our main priests, so he's not as geared as our main priests are. I think I could be wrong. I didn't actually look at his gear, and we crushed it. To be honest, it was actually pretty easy. We 9-manned it.
You had a few
Yeah.
alts though in that raid too,
Yeah,
right?
we just had one alt, I think. It was just Butter's Warlock. Um, and then yeah, I mean it was pretty good. We had I thought that we were gonna have like a super scuffed group just from the way that it was looking. Then we had 9 people, and I was like, well, this is done for. But I wanted to give it a try anyway. And it honestly wasn't that bad. Like I really think that with a geared healer, we could probably one heal most of Karazhan. I know some guilds are doing that. It's just healers need some gear in there, and it would be crazy to to just bring the one right now.
Mel and I's group with Corpse this week on Netherspite, we killed him before. Like we only had to run away one time or whatever. We killed him before.
Yeah. Yeah, I have groups
Yeah.
doing that a lot as
Yeah.
well too now. It's
Yeah.
it's pretty nice. And the more you bring, like if you're only bringing one tank, which I think Corpse often, I think Fabulous is usually Rhett for that. Yeah,
We
just having
actually
Oh,
one
we
tank
actually
really
had
helps.
we had
Oh, yeah, the
we
2
had
tanks.
Skeet we had Skeet this week.
Oh, right. So that was this week.
Yeah.
That was this week. Yeah, I mean, it can be nice if you are only bringing one tank. Just having more DPS also makes things easier. But
Yeah.
Nightbane also went really well. I brought frost grenades because I didn't believe in my group, and then I felt stupid because we crushed it. The commanding shout spam totally does work. I don't know why Mel died last week,
I
but
did.
yeah, I think you were in our Karazhan and
Oh.
commanding. I couldn't get it from you with commanding shout, but this week
Weird.
I was able to really easily, so it was pretty weird.
We had a rough time with that actually. I've only done it with
We
the Paladin tank once, right? And that was the first time, and we were going really slow and steady. But then I'd been doing it with you the 2 weeks after that, right? So then we're back in Corpse's group, and first off, someone else wiped us the first time. It was the only wipes I think we had the entire raid because we decided to just do them all in. We did everything in order. So we did
Yeah.
we did Nightbane super early, but I think it was one of the healers at first pulled when he came down after his
Oh, that's
first
rough.
launch. But then the next launch, I had Curse of Doom up, and it landed, and there was 3 seconds left on Curse of Doom, and then I went from no aggro to like 3k aggro and past Corpse, and it came at me, and I was like, I didn't soul shatter in time. And I was like, oh my God, how could I do that? And then Corpse, of course, made me feel like an
Yep.
idiot. He's like, you could have just casted Curse of Doom again. I'm thinking to myself, well, that's just so back-asswards from like what a DPS thinks. I would just lose all that Curse of Doom DPS. But I was like, I've decided when doing it with a
Survival greater
Paladin,
than-
definitely want to do just Curse of Agony instead of Curse of Doom. But it's
Well-
very different.
And the Paladin's it's a little bit longer of a fight, right? So Corpse runs out of mana like the second fly up and is like trying to keep, hitting and keep threat, and that makes
Hold
it a
on.
little bit more
No.
difficult.
It doesn't matter who you run with. Your Curse of Doom should not be going off as he flies down, no matter what, whoever you're with.
Well, I mean,
That
yeah,
is
but I mean,
a-
like, you don't really have you just probably shouldn't be using Curse of Doom on that fight for the RNG of when he's going to land.
I didn't know that was you, so I actually had heard Corpse was complaining about this. He was like, "Our warlocks need to learn that you can just breathe."
Well, he
Well,
said there
it's
was a
because-
different warlock the week
yeah,
before.
it's
that did
because
it.
Oh, it was a different warlock.
It
too.
happened
Okay.
twice the week before, but nobody told me that. I
Bob
didn't
got the
know
wrath
that.
of like the second time it
Yeah.
happening. I was like, oh God.
Oh man, but I was just like, in the future, just use Curse of Agony. It's just safer, like,
Yeah. My main point with Corpse was just that I think there's just an adjustment where healers and DPS now actually need to learn the fights. Like they need to know, like you do have to kind of change what you're doing on different
Right.
fights. Whereas in Classic,
Definitely.
it's just like there's the phase changes never really had giant aggro wipes or anything like that. It was always pretty simple. But now like half these bosses are wiping aggro at certain
Well,
times and
and-
stuff. And
What's sad is
Yeah,
I
you can't
did
heal when you're
know.
pulling.
I did know it was a problem. He was coming down, and like a healer had
Yeah.
pulled aggro at the same point the wipe before, and I was like, "Oh my God, what do I do?" But it never crossed my mind to have less DPS.
Yeah.
Like
That's-
throw Curse
it's
of Doom
kind of
back
incredible.
up.
that anxiety where you're just
God.
watching it with no idea what to do.
Yeah, I was like, "Can I click it off of him? Can I like like purge it, like, and then I was just like, oh, I could have just casted Curse of Doom again, or even Curse of Agony. It just would have just put it over top of it. But oh, it was a big whoops. But
It's great.
but
That was the only thing
it
we
was
struggled
funny.
on, though. I mean, the rest of it went just fine. And yeah, it was fun. It was quick. We were done pretty
Our
quickly.
25 man was a little interesting for the Warlocks because we got there and just got thrown on us. Oh, we actually finally have a fire mage in the raid, and we're like struggling. We're like, what consumes do we need? Okay, I need to make my fire gem to put in my wand spot. Oh, I didn't bring any flame caps because like I literally had flame caps every other week before, and finally I was like, I'm just gonna sell them because I'm broke, because we're never gonna get to do fire. And then it comes to fire, I'm like, like trying to figure out what I need to do differently, and it was just,
Yeah, I get that, but we kind of are at the point where we're ready to optimize. Like I mean, I don't
Mhm.
know if that's why we had a fire mage or not, but content's been so easy. It's sort of like time to,
Why not?
yeah,
Yeah.
like
yeah,
why not?
yeah, and I really like how we're trying stuff different because we never did that in Classic ever. Like we always would
We
do
just
the
got
Yeah,
same
stuck in the
thing
way we did
that we
it.
dropped the boss the first time every time. This is actually exciting. It's just a culture change that we all have to get used to.
yeah, and I think another really big part of that is there aren't world buffs, so we can try out more stuff, and then just cutting down the roster. And this isn't like calling anyone out that we played with in Classic, but our 25 man is really strong. I think that it's just we have so many more options just because we have just incredible players in those 25.
I
Yeah, I
think
would
people are
definitely
also held
agree.
a little bit more accountable, right, in their 10 mans, so you
Yeah,
kind of like it's not like I can just slide kind of AFK in my 10 man, right? I have to
yeah,
actually like perform, and then that kind of shows. And the people that don't want to do that usually don't sign up for 25 man.
definitely true.
Yep, definitely true. Well, that should about do it for that. So let's move into the news. So first off, in the news, we brought on people from Blizzard a few weeks back to talk about the TBC Arena Tournament. Well, it kicked off today with the EU qualifiers, uh, or semifinals, or whatever. Did you guys have a chance to catch any of that? I know Mel didn't.
No, I only just got home right before this.
Well, it
Yeah, I
was
worked
actually,
until right before this.
yeah, Mel, I didn't get a chance to tell you this before the pod, but remember I was trying to remember the name of the pro WoW player that we met at BlizzCon 2 years back.
Hmm.
Finally placed him because he was one of the casters. Peekaboo is the one that we
Oh,
met and like was super cool with us, and and I was just
He
like,
was
I
mad at me because
finally
I asked him
remembered.
why he didn't play Overwatch, why he played
Yeah,
WoW.
yeah, yeah. We were
He's like,
like,
oh,
we're
he's
like, you
so
look
bad.
familiar, but like we cover Overwatch, so are you Overwatch player? And he's like, no. Wow. I was like, oh yeah, wow. Okay, sorry.
I'm pretty sure I said something like, "Oh, that's not as cool,"
But
or
yeah,
something like really rude. Yeah.
but he was super cool, fun guy. He was casting, and a few others. Venruku was casting, and it was actually really good. Like it was really fun. There were some different comps. It wasn't all rogue mage priests. There were some new people. It's funny because I watched it, and like you can tell who the pro players are and who aren't. And the pro players pissed me off because anytime one of them would die, you know, it's like almost statistically impossible to win after that. But they would just quit out and quit. And it was just like, I want to see you guys fight for your life and maybe get a lucky something, like. But the newcomers all did that. They would play out the entire match till everybody was dead. And I was just like, they haven't got they haven't had the fight ripped out of them yet, but,
I think that's really good. I think it's fun to do it that way.
What,
but
to fight till the end?
Fight till the end.
yeah,
Right?
yeah,
I
me
like to like
too.
just run around as my druid just faster than they can catch me, and it just makes them angry, and I know I'm just delaying the inevitable.
Yeah, but I
I
mean,
moonfire occasionally. It's great.
never give up, never surrender. It was done really well. the tournament server they used, they were talking about it. It was interesting because since it was a tournament server, they could have the absolute max of anything they wanted. So these people probably weren't used to fighting at the resilience levels that they're at right there, because they're all in like full glad gear, which lots of them probably don't have yet. And it was really cool though. The casting was really good. Like it was exciting. I could tell everything that was going on, which is so different from when I would tune in to like current WoW arena tournaments, and it was really neat. And the next ones are on tomorrow, starting at it's noon my time, but 10 a.m. PST, 1 p.m. Eastern. So you guys should check it out. I don't know if we want to talk anything else about it because you guys didn't watch it, but it was super cool.
Definitely check it out, and then do what I said. Go into arena. The queues are so fast, you won't even remember all the games you lose. We played in one sitting between 2s and 3s with me and Kim, and then we had Casman join us for 3s. We played 55 games just in a couple of hours. Yeah,
What'd
it
you
just
get up
flew
to?
by. Like 1300, 1250 or something. We lost a
Nice.
lot. We didn't have any resilience. I didn't do my honor grind yet. So I had Deep Thunder, but I still didn't have any resilience. So I was roughly, well, I had like the tanking pieces, like I said, that I use. So that was pretty rough. And then the 2s were like kind of inviting more people on, just having fun in 2s and trying things out. So that's been good.
Yeah, I mean
That's funny.
we did some PvP with Ale the other day. He's got his paladin worked up. He's doing the honor grind on white man. He was healing me through some BGs. He's like, dude, you just have to spam games. Like, it's what me, Melderon, and Def Camp do. Like, you just have to spam games. And so we might be doing some stuff with Ale sometime in the future. He wanted to do 3s with double heal Mel and him and me on the warrior. So we might try that at some point too.
We ran into a lot of double heal groups when we were doing
Really?
3s. Yeah.
Well, we ran into a ton of them when we were doing 5s, but
Oh,
yeah,
5s. Yeah, maybe that's what I'm
3s
thinking.
double heal is more of a
Okay.
gimmick comp.
I was gonna say
Yeah.
we played like 20 to 25 3s, and definitely I don't think we ran into double heals ever.
Yeah. I think I'm thinking of 5s.
Yeah. But I'm jealous. I'm gonna have to borrow that strategy and get some healers.
Dude, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, he was just basically saying because I have so much resilience, like they could just kind of count on me to just train everybody. But okay, so you guys want to move on to one of the spicier ones?
Yeah. It's been out for, we've heard about it for a while now, so it feels like it's
Yeah,
just been in
Yeah, well,
forever.
and
Mhm.
also if you want to hear Yip talk about it prior, if you want to hear his before thoughts, you can check out the last episode of Countdown to Classic where he came on and talked to Josh about what he thought about what their test was going to be like before. Now we're going to get here his afterthoughts, so it could be kind of neat. So maybe pause here, check out what Yip had to say on that, and come back. So first off, let's just talk about. Okay, so I'm not going to read this entire thing, but
The 4 main points I think are
well,
let's
I'm going to
you
go
can
to
read
the
the 4
forming
points
points.
on each side.
I'm going to go to the forming points in a second, but first off, I want to go with. They said some players literally asked for more understanding of our goals. So we'd like to list out the goals we think are most pertinent to the battleground queue situation. Now, I love that they said literally wanted more understanding, but then listen to this
Like, that's
first
an unreasonable
sentence.
request.
But listen to this first sentence. Emulate the design pillars and intentions of original Burning Crusade game systems. Design. Why say design pillars? I just don't. I don't get that sentence. But then the next one is leverage modern tech and design to address modern issues. Make surgical changes to the game to improve the player experience. Address player concerns in a way that capture the spirit of the original design of the game. Now, this is
Somebody
just
got
a
a
whole
little
bunch
bit
of
too
this is just a whole bunch of buzzwords. I don't
I was
Yeah,
like,
this
understand.
somebody
reminds
got
me
a
of
little bit
working
too
in
much fluff with the thesaurus here, right?
Yeah, I think that this is them this is like them reverse engineering with corporate speak. I mean, it's like corporate meeting speak. Like,
I
we need to
know.
improve the synergy of our design pillars. But in reality, they just wanted the Horde to stop complaining, right? That's
Hmm.
their goal. I mean, like, the thing is, like, these aren't goals, right? Um, these
These
are
are like
like
visions or
philosophies.
like, yeah.
Yeah. Whereas the goal is to make Horde stop whining as much, right? That's like what the goal is. So these sort of things are like design philosophy. I'm glad that they put this in
And
here,
they're
though.
It just reminds me
okay,
of
but
that
they're
one
based
guy that
on
always uses the big words nobody knows, and it just makes him sound like an asshole. Instead of, like, he thinks he's doing something cool, but instead he's just upsetting the people that don't understand the words he's saying, and he's just sounding like an asshole. That's what those sentences sounded like to me. And I
what
Well,
could
this
I,
just be
reminds
reading
me
it
of though
wrong.
is developing the goals after you know the result, right? Like
yeah.
you know what you want the end to be, so then you'd write the story. Like,
Well, yeah. How do we justify
yeah,
How do we
100%.
justify the fact that we're putting Horde versus Horde in when that is not a classic experience situation?
Right.
Oh, we're trying to leverage modern tech to address modern issues.
Uh-huh.
Okay. First of all, modern
Okay.
issues. Horde have had longer queues this entire time.
Right.
Just want to throw
And
that out
had
there.
longer queues back in TBC. I used to remember sitting there for 15 minutes every queue and
I think it's
whining about Alliance having.
yeah.
But I also understood, hey, well, I get to move around the world freely, so I'm not going to bitch too much. Like,
I do just want to reiterate though, hour and a half queues, stuff like that. I
oh,
think everyone
not cool.
agrees.
Yeah, not cool.
Unacceptable.
Yeah.
Um, I'm glad that they listed these out because we can judge what they do now based on these four goals though.
We can
So
assign what they
anytime
do to one of these.
exactly. And we don't have to just say I don't like this change. We can say, okay, let's take a look at some of their goals. Do they even meet
Right.
their own goals with
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
changes?
All right, so let's talk about the test that we've played quite a bit. So they planned on running a test. It started July 20th. It's going to end on server maintenance. What is that, the 27th?
27th.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so it's been running this entire time. So the 4 points are, should we go over each one, or should we just go over them all after I read them all?
Let's go through each one
Okay.
because I mean I want to reiterate some of my feelings that I had
All right.
before.
So the first one is kind of like just the same thing. Like, same faction BGs will be allowed by the matchmaker.
Yep.
Do you want me to skip to
Yep.
the next one?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Okay,
Let's
okay,
get to the
so-
We've
next
talked
one.
that one
I
to
feel like
death.
Yeah.
I feel like we've talked it to death.
People
Alright.
know Yip's thoughts on that.
So the matchmaker will take a little more time to find an opposite faction match than it did during the first test. And this is what I wanted the first time we talked
Yep.
about it. Just a little bit,
Absolutely.
like, if you can't find one after, 5-10 minutes, then start looking for one.
Which I don't actually know
What
what
that
what
time
Horde
is.
are experiencing right now.
Oh, I should have asked Ale before the podcast, or Melderon.
I do know, and I said this on Josh's podcast, that we have a player in our guild who plays Horde and Alliance, and his Horde queues during AB weekend were 14 minutes long. That's without Horde versus Horde matchmaking.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to throw that one out there that
Yeah.
that's not very long of a queue. I think 14 minutes is a very acceptable time to have to wait for a queue. I understand that
That's what our
they're-
AAV queues have been all day. I've been doing AV all day. And winning, by the way. Sorry, Horde.
Well, I
yeah,
think you
that-
have to think if Horde is queuing now and getting instant queues or close to instant queues, then the other battlegrounds that they haven't been able to get instant queues for are more exciting, right? And
Oh.
AV was just the better battleground for them to grind honor in because they had to wait so long. So it was a longer game and they could get most honor, right?
We should also point out, because many people in the guild also didn't realize this, and I think a lot of people might have missed this from the first test. Altric Valley does not is the only BG that does not allow same faction matchups. So
Yeah,
that's
that's
why
why
we're
Alliance
talking
have
about
a
it.
queue now. Yeah, Alliance have a long queue for Alterac Valley because while Horde versus Horde exists, why would Horde queue up for Alterac Valley when they're
Right.
going to have to wait for Alliance still either way? So we
Which
actually
is
got the
funny
queues this
because
week.
this test is during AV weekend, which is also
Yep,
interesting.
incredible.
Okay, so moving on to the next one, because the next ones are like definitely the juiciest.
I mean, the only
Yeah,
thing I'd like to know about this, the one we were just talking about, is how much time is a little more time.
yeah. Either way, I'm glad it's something that they're looking at.
Yeah,
Taking
agreed.
ripping the ideas straight from us. But
Yeah,
I think it's a reasonable expectation that there should be some. It should
you're not
try to
gonna
put
get
you
the
against
first
Alliance.
match, whether it's Horde v Horde or Horde v Alliance, right? Like
Yeah,
that would be stupid.
because before, even if they only had to wait 3 minutes for Alliance, they would still get Horde versus Horde because the queues
Hmm.
were 30 seconds long. So
Right.
I
that's something to
guess
think about.
I will say for my final thing, the only thing I'm kind of upset about right now is that I never get to see the people in the goofy masks because that
I
looks
know
hilarious.
True.
it's really funny, and the
True.
pets have masks on. I
Oh
think
my
too.
god, are you kidding me? How cute!
Yeah, like you can see a scorpion with
Why
like a
don't the
gnome
pets look the
mask on.
same? That's amazing.
Oh, that's great.
I don't know
Oh
if that
my
was a
gosh.
bug or if it's all the time, but I've seen screenshots of that and it
Oh,
looks really adorable.
speaking of bugs, I think they probably hot fixed it by now, but there was a bug in same faction BGs for Horde where if you mind controlled somebody and they died while mind controlled, they would res at the enemy battleground and be read to both teams.
Yeah.
That's just funny. Come on.
True,
Yeah.
true every man for himself mode right there.
Yeah, and people were asking why Alterac Valley doesn't have Horde versus Horde. I
Oh
think that
God.
that's clear why that wouldn't
Yeah.
work when these simple battlegrounds are they were pretty broken to begin with, and then they're still finding more bugs going on with them. So I think
Well,
that it'd be pretty hard to do the Alterac Valley.
okay,
Oh yeah.
just to tell in the blue post when they originally posted it, their exact reasoning was they thought it would be weird for players to be surrounded by so many of the enemy faction
I think they're
models, the
lying.
NPCs. But that's what
Yeah,
they said.
that's what they said. I think they're lying. I think they know they couldn't make it work. You won't have a
Uh-huh.
trinket to recall back to your base. Like I just think
Yeah.
that logistically and how they implement it, making the
The
NPCs not
trinket's a
attack
huge
some
call.
horde. Yeah,
Right.
making some NPCs not attack some horde. I think they were just like, I don't know. We're not gonna do that right now.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, the trinket's a
Nobody's
really good
complaining about
point.
Ultric Valley queues.
Because, like, most likely the trinket would be broken then, too, and they could just recall straight to the end. So the horde that
Oh
was on
yeah,
the
yep.
Alliance side would just instantly kill Drek. Like, that would
Oh
be
my God.
hilarious. Because all 40 would just go, and with 40 people there, you could take Drek with all towers up.
Incredible.
That would have
All
been
right, so the next one is really juicy. Groups will be restricted to a maximum of 5 players when joining the queue. Now, initially, this is something that I asked for back in TBC. Initially, this sounded great because I was like, oh, well, pre-mades are the problem. But it does pose a lot more problems. And it's just another way. Like someone pointed this out to me. Bushy Bottoms pointed it out to me. It's just another way to like make it more casual. Like you don't have to find a big group to pre-made. It's just taking that aspect out of the game. But at the same time, for casuals and solo and duo queuers, this is awesome. But then we also found another problem with it, which I'm sure Yip will talk about here in a second.
Well, I think Bushy's
Well,
point, though, just to piggyback on that real fast before we go into the other thing, Bushy's point, I think, was more that they're starting to take out things that you could group and connect with people and continue to play the way that we all like to play Classic, right? And he related it back to something like looking for raid, where it's like you're just taking the effort and the time to like make connections and find groups of people and play with people out of it. And that sucks, you know? I think they could have done something where, you can join a queue that's a group of max 5 players, or you can join maybe a longer queue that is 5 or more queuing together, right? Like, I think that would have been a better
Well,
system
I
so
mean,
that you
they
had the option.
they could bring out rated battlegrounds, and then you have, but Yip was pointing out when we were talking the other night is that like it's weird because we don't have rated BGs, and rated
Yeah.
BGs for anybody who doesn't play retail is just it's literally pre-made versus pre-made. You have to have 15 people to join the queue, correct?
Yeah, so you join. It's like arena. It's like arena, but for BGs. My biggest thing that's weird about this is that I can understand some sort of special matchmaking to help get rid of pre-mates, and I understand that this is a test, and maybe this is what will sprout from this test, right? So I don't know exactly. They said their goals, but they actually didn't say any functional goals. They only named some ambiguous design philosophy. So a real goal, Blizzard, would have been so groups will be restricted to a maximum of 5 players when joining a queue. The reason we're testing this is to see, if this gets more Alliance people playing. The reason we're testing this is to see if maybe Alliance will stop AFKing as much as soon as they run into a pre-made. These are some goals that make sense to me that are like functional goals. So I can understand that side of this. What's super weird to me is that this just means you cannot play a competitive battleground in any form,
Right.
right? So you literally cannot play Arathi Basin with a 15 man and like be able to make call outs to each other over voice. You just can't do that. The game doesn't allow that anymore. I think that's like such a big removal of something
Mhm.
I loved in the original TBC. And we used to run into premates all the time with my premates back in the real TBC. And that wasn't a problem. Like having a competitive game and then destroying another pre-made was part of the game. I know everyone's at an honor grind right now, so we're sort of just like, oh, I just want my free honor gear. I don't want to like
Right.
do anything. But once you have resilience gear, those pre-mades they stop being just like, oh, we're trying to get honor, so we're pre-mating, and they can become really enjoyable to play. And to remove that entirely from the game is just
Right.
kind of incredible to
Well,
me.
and speaking before the test, we did a Saturday night. It was Saturday, not Friday, right? It was Saturday night,
Yes, I don't know.
Arathi Basin pre-made, but we only had about 9 to 10 people at a time each
Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
and we kept running into horde pre-mades, and we didn't win them, but boy, we made their life tough. It was like 1,700 to 2K, and it was just like. Like I know some of the people that were in the pre-made were like, can we just let this go, so that we can move on and make more honor? But like Yip and I are like, well, we're just making their life hard. We're having a good time, it's
Well, I think
different
the funny thing
philosophies
is
on that there.
we say we have pre-mades, but really we just have a group of people that are queuing together that kind of talk to each other about things in Discord, but a
And
lot of them go off and do their own thing.
and mostly in PvE gear too, lots of them.
Yeah, I
Oh,
mean
who
that's
was that
like I
one
said,
that
that's the
called
big
us
problem.
out that Yip got into a fight with in one of the battlegrounds? He
So
was like,
okay, so a couple. So we were a partial pre-made of like 7 or 8 people. They had 3 people who were from their same server and guild, and they were ragging on us to lose for losing to a full pre-made on the other team. And I was like, okay, well that's crazy. Like
right.
first of all, because it's a full pre-made. Uh, but then they brought up Karazhan and said, I bet you guys haven't even done Karazhan yet. And that was a big mistake, so I looked up their Warcraft logs and just started naming all
Yep, I
their.
remember that.
I was like, "Oh, wow. Your guild is 10,505th in speed for 25 mans. That's crazy. There's a lot of guilds that raid apparently." And they're just calling them out a lot.
Oh man, my
It was
f-
Yeah.
my
amazing.
favorite was we did do Warsong Gulch one time that night with like 7. And there was this one dude in the Warsong Gulch, and it had been going 0-0 for like 10 minutes, right? And he was like,
Yeah.
this white maid pre-made sucks. And we just ignored him and then proceeded to go 3-0 in the next like
Mhm.
7 minutes. And he was just like, I was just waiting for him to say something, and he didn't say anything.
Listen, what you're not realizing is this guy is probably sitting at his computer like, "See, I lit a fire under them. That's why they picked it up." And we're like, "Oh, no. No, no." But, yes, one thing I wanted
He
to
did
agree with
kind
Yip
of, I
on.
mean, to be fair, he did kind of light a fire under me. I tried just a little bit harder at that point. Like, I was like, I'll show you.
See? So it worked.
Yeah,
Shouldn't
Bob's
tell
a
people that.
smooth brain. Those types of things
Yes.
work, you know?
Yeah. See, I feel like I would try less hard. Be like, "Fine. Whatever. I'm not gonna reward that behavior." Uh, but one thing I wanted to say with Yip's point about writing functional goals is none of their goals have an actual like measurable component to them. Like, how do you measure your progress towards emulating the design pillars and intentions of original Burning Crusade game systems, right? Like, they're not
Yeah, it's
anything
your
that you can.
interpretation of it because nobody's left there that was the original design pillars.
Well, and what I'm saying is that you can't write goals that you can't measure and achieve. And that's what our point was about them being like philosophies and visions, right? Like a goal has to be like measurable, achievable, um, you know, like there has to be certain components to a goal. You can't just throw around the word goal.
Yeah, so yeah, the they're talking about design philosophies. These aren't goals. Like a goal would be so some of the result of the last one would be better rephrased as goals because again, I think that they were trying to justify what was going on, but say, "Hey, we want outdoor PvP, we want, open world PvP to be about 50-50 deaths on Alliance and
Hmm.
Horde. We want to see a 20% increase in Alliance queuing up during this test period." Like
Well, I
these
mean,
are
they could
things
even
that
change like same faction battlegrounds will be allowed by the matchmaker. And they could change that to same faction battlegrounds will be allowed by the matchmaker to achieve a 10-minute or less queue time for all parties queuing for battlegrounds, right? Like
Well,
that would be a goal.
and I'm actually going to bring up something that's a little different. Sorry, unless you want to do more goals stuff. Okay,
no.
but I'm going to bring up
I
something a
can't
little
talk to my
different
soapbox long enough.
that is counter to the alliance and actually I kind of feel sorry for the horde. So if the matchmaker is taking a little more time to find same or to find an opposite faction group, that means the horde queues are a little bit longer. So we found out just what was it, Tuesday night or was it Wednesday night? But we found out that we could actually take two groups of 5 and queue simultaneously, and almost every time got the same pop. And if it didn't pop at the same time, we could just hide. But we literally never had to do that. We just
Yeah,
got
it
in.
wasn't just almost every time. It
It
was
was every
literally
time.
every
Literally
time.
every time.
Every
Yeah.
time we were able to bring in, and we weren't bringing in a full pre-made. And I think it gets harder the more people you try to bring in. But bringing 10 into a 15-man, 100% of the time, we were able to do that. In
Whereas,
order
like,
to in order to counteract how bad it makes us sound that we did that, we lost the majority of our games doing it that way.
True.
we
True.
did. I think that was more due to too many cooks in the kitchen. We didn't have like a solid voice,
Yeah, but I mean, I
leading
just
the
mean like
group.
our pre-made again, our PVE players who are kind of messing around. If we were all these resilience like geared people and we were pre-mating just smashing everybody, I'd feel a little worse about it. But really, we were all just kind of
True.
hanging out. It wasn't
Yeah.
like a serious cheating pre-made. But yeah, you
But
were able to pretty easily get into the same
my
thing.
whole point is if the horde does have to, maybe if this does go through and they do keep the 5s, maybe it's not fair to have to like have the horde wait a little bit longer because I should have talked to Ale and Meldrod and see if they tried any of this, but I'm curious to see if horde was able to accomplish the same goals getting in, like 2 groups or 3 groups.
Listen, that's just an extra benefit you get from being the smaller faction.
But the benefit of having more people is pretty huge. Like the benefit of pre-mades
Unless
is
you're
huge.
Vargflocken.
I mean, I think that's a great point. I think it's a great point against this 5-man is as long as you are able to cheese this and get past it, then it probably shouldn't be added. That's I think
Yeah,
that's
Yeah,
sort
that's
of
I'm just
fair.
saying I like it as me because I win, but I have to bring up, I have to be fair because I feel like we've all been fair with the horde side of it, regardless of what people have written us and stuff. I think we've been fair, so I would need to keep being fair and point out that this is kind of a problem for them.
yeah.
Mm.
And even so, most games I was solo queuing, I didn't see this happening very much horde side. So I think it probably is a problem on their side because if
Yeah,
they could do it, they would be doing it.
Yeah.
I think that previous previous to actually playing it, I did have a feeling that this was going to be an excellent change for casual people or solo queuers. You don't even have to be casual to be a solo queuer or just like queuing with 5 or less people. It does make games much easier to win when you're not just facing down horde premids the whole time. Alliance do give up less often. Maybe because of the next change as well too, but I think also just because you see a full premade on the other side and you just literally give up. People will AFK from the beginning. And I don't mean slash AFK. I mean sit at stables and pretend they're
Right.
AFK and
They're
speaking of which,
defending.
guys, please report people that are constantly spamming the BG with "you suck" and "you should have done this" when they could be fighting. Report them. I reported a number of people. I got 3 different emails saying that actions were taken on my reports. I don't know which reports went through, but I reported people that were just sitting there spamming chat, standing there not doing anything, and it's just like less type, more fight. Like yes, we're not going to win them all, and like to like berate somebody is not the way to do it. Like the way to do it, say what you want to say. Maybe they listen, maybe they don't, but get back in the fight. I don't know if Horde side deals with that a lot, but I know that Horde side dealt with it back in the TBC days because I had to say the same thing. Stop typing, more fighting. And just
Yeah.
like just but use the report function because I don't know, three people got actioned on my reports. So I don't know.
no,
Yeah, I think there's also the opposite side of what we were just talking about before though, where Alliance don't give up as quickly, but I also think Horde give up a little bit easier now, right? Like it's not as important for them to win this BG because it's not going to be an hour and a half before they get into a next one. And
It's
so if they
definitely
start to lose, you see that they're not like
yeah,
crazy pushing.
it's
it
definitely
turns out
weird because sorry, it's definitely weird because it might just be me. I'm a one person in a small cog in a huge wheel, but I've definitely killed a lot more AFK hordes when we're winning the game than ever before. Like just sitting at like graveyards in Eye of the Storm.
yeah, despite the toxicity online, it turns out that the way players play isn't because they're Horde or Alliance. It's because of a top-down game design. When you have fast queues, you're more likely to give up. When you have an overpopulated server, even on the Alliance ones that are overpopulated, you're gonna viciously gank Horde, the same way that Horde viciously gank Alliance in overpopulated servers.
It's
It's
true.
almost as if it's problems with the game and not problems with the players themselves because everyone is just seeing the same thing now that Horde have the same situations as the Alliance. So I think it's clear that it has always sort of just been
And
uh,
Yeah.
the same situation.
And the beautiful part of us doing this podcast and Mel and I of being Horde before and everything is that we bring on a bunch of Horde guests and you realize these are cool people that you really like, that you would love
I
to
mean, they'd
hang
be
out with.
cooler if they were Alliance, that's for sure. But
Yeah.
yeah, they're
But
still they're still okay.
you realize like there's cool people on both sides. There's dicks on both sides. Like that's just the way it is, but it's kind of neat that we get to interact with so many different Horde players, whereas I think a lot of people that play the game don't.
It's also like the group mentality, right? Like if you're out questing and get attacked by the opposite faction and your whole faction comes and tries to save you, you're probably going to do that when they get attacked, right? If you're out questing and the opposite faction comes and attacks you and all of your faction runs away, that's probably what you do, right? It's just like you learn in the culture that you're in and the, way that people are acting, and you abide by those social norms, and we set those social norms.
Yep.
Yeah, my last point on destroying pre-mades, which is why I was bringing up these goals earlier too, to be able to reference back to them. I would be very interested to hear how the destruction of the ability to pre-made emulates the design pillars and intentions of the original Burning Crusade game systems. How strange. I faintly remember pre-mating almost exclusively in the Burning Crusade. So I'm confused
Same.
about how this is emulating design pillars and the intentions. Were we never supposed to be able to pre-made, or does this actually not match the goal that they set forward? Just a thought.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
maybe, just a thought.
yeah.
I feel the same way about this next one, but if you want to
All right, well
take that one over
let's
too.
go on to the next one because it's been juicy and I hate to say it, but I've been enjoying the hell out of it. So we're adding an enlistment bonus for the Alliance players who participate. So we didn't know what this meant at first, but what it means is you're just getting a little loot box. It's a little bit of gambling thrown in here. Don't want to say the word gambling, but I mean, I guess it's not gambling because you're not really paying for it. You're winning for it. So it is not pay to win, but win to win.
You're gambling your time on the fact that
Yes.
you may or may not win the BG. That's how I feel about it. 'cause
True. But
I've
I've won
gone 2
so
hours
many.
without solo queuing. I've lost a lot, and I've had
Oh, see, I've
strings
won
where
so
I'll lose.
much. Like, if I lose one, I make sure I make sure to queue a different one at that point because I
Yeah,
want to get
yeah.
away from those whiny Alliance players that just try to tell everybody, oh, you should always get 3 bases in Eye of the Storm. Oh, you should always get 2 in Flag. No, you should play it by ear and do whichever one is working. Like,
Which, by the way, 2 in flag is easier. I just want to throw out there, no matter what anyone says, when both of your graveyards are equidistant from the third point that you're trying to take, which is mid, it's easier than having weirdo cross graveyards, having graveyards across the bridge so that the horde are spawning on one side, but then if you take them over, they're going to spawn across. It
I've,
literally is easier.
I've seen so many Alliance and Horde doing this where they're just a zerg of 12 players just moving from base to base while the other factions just zerging right behind them, taking base to base as they just go in a circle, and then one person on one of the teams or the other is the one actually grabbing the flag and turning it in. It's just like, guys, you need to leave people to defend. Defending sucks. It's what I actually end up doing when I'm solo or duo queuing is because no one's going to do it. So I just end up doing it, and it actually ends up helping win games because I'm pretty beefy at this point. So I can, hold off two people before, my call out when there's incoming.
Yeah.
So
Other than AV, though, Eye of the Storm is definitely the Alliance kind of dominated
at least for us,
battleground,
yeah,
I would say.
at least for what
It
we've
seemed
seen.
well. I mean solo queuing. I did a lot of solo queuing of a lot of BGs because I had a lot of honor to grind, and it did seem like it didn't just seem like Eye of the Storm was definitely the easiest to win. Also the easiest to lead. Arathi Basin, Alliance still AFK all the time, unfortunately.
Well,
Warsong Gulch is just really difficult to win because I was queuing into a Warsong. I queued into a Warsong. 10 people go to Warsong Gulch. There were 6 rogues and 0 healers against a team with 3 healers. We couldn't win. We tried,
well,
and there's
Every
just no way.
battleground I queue into, there is 6 or more druids.
oh,
Every
druids
single one.
everywhere. But Arathi Basin's weird because you really have to have someone spinning flag at all time. And who do you have spin flag? And then sometimes 3 of the 5 people in the fight will be spinning flag, and that's no good.
Yep.
And so that's why Eye of the Storm is neater because you really just have to have more people on the point to start taking it, but everybody can partake in the fight. Where Arathi Basin, I love it, but it's probably not my favorite now just because of that, because you always have to have the spin. It was my favorite when I was a rogue, just because I could stealth do so much stuff. I could stealth cap so many bases. I could guard bases solo super easy. So it's funny because Arathi Base has always been my favorite, but Eye of the Storm is definitely as a warrior my all-time fave now. But here,
Okay.
let's talk about the
Yeah,
boxes though.
loot boxes. They're whatever. Honestly, they're so whatever. The problem is I didn't want them to go too crazy, but I literally don't know what the point of them are. They are not I don't find them to be an incentive to PvP. If you don't want to PvP, you're not going to be having a
Yeah,
good time getting these loot boxes.
it's
I don't
like
know.
it's
I was
not
more
better.
incentivized to PvP, to be honest.
Yeah,
But you're a PvPer though. Like with your druid,
Right.
Well, but
Yeah.
here, let me point this out first, though. So 5 hours of winning a lot of BGs. It was that same night that we did the pre-made, and then we lost a bunch as the duo group pre-made, and then you and I and 3 other people stayed up late night and did the 5-man pre-made and just dominated, right? So
yeah, that was incredible.
with all the boxes that I made from that night, everything that I sold, I made 109 gold. So that's 5 hours, 109 gold. It's
Winning a lot.
Yeah, it's a nice little like drop in the pocket, like makes me feel better about spending that much time. But I could have made in 5 hours of grinding, I could have made at least bare minimum 150 gold an hour. So it's not affecting the economy as a lot of people are saying it is.
Yeah, with a
I mean,
50-50
you're
win
also
rate.
very unlucky,
Well,
right?
with the fit,
Because
no. You got lucky.
Oh no.
I've
twice,
opened so
twice,
many of these.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay, and
I've only done like 10.
and let me say, in that 109 gold, one of the boxes that I opened had 3, is it mana thistle that sells for
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 45 of that gold was the mana thistles. Now, I will say the gold in the box, which could be anywhere from a gold 50 to like up to 5 gold, I did not factor that in. I don't know how much I made from the actual raw gold in the box, but I know how much I made from selling all the items that I got. So it was probably like around 150, 200 gold max, but for 5 hours, that's not going to affect that's not going to like blow up the economy.
No.
Yep.
I don't know if it accomplishes its goal, but it's a nice perk, right? Because you are the like lesser faction. But I guess you're right. I don't know that it's going to accomplish the goal of sustaining Alliance queuing for BGs. I think that this data will show that more Alliance queued for BGs because it was the new hot thing. And they wanted to see it. Everyone was trying to
Yeah.
see what they could get out of it, what it was. Um, and I'm again worried that they're going to take this data from a very small sample in a very short duration of time and say that yes, this works. It makes Alliance more motivated to PvP, which is fine for me. But it's not like this is going to make people switch to Alliance to PvP. It's not like anybody that's not going to PvP at all is going to do it for a loot box.
Yeah, it's pretty minimal. It's about as minimal as it could be, where it still is like, okay, like if you get mana thistles, you might be able to get you get some like halal tokens sometimes. You get I mean, someone's gotten like Badge of Justice before. I've seen posts of that, but I've opened a lot of these things, and I probably I think I averaged 4.5 gold total. I've never gotten mana thistles before. I do not make a lot of money doing it. It barely covers my repair costs as a warrior in BGs. So it really was not super exciting. I hate that I have to pick it up every time.
I do
Every
hate
time
that
you
part
win,
too. I wish you got
you
like
gotta
a
pick it back
token.
up.
Yeah, like a
It should
token
just
you could just turn
appear in
in.
your inventory after
Nah,
you
it makes
win.
it fun.
No, it's horrible. So what doesn't make any sense to me now that we've read all of these, and like you said, we don't even know if their goal is to, I mean, I assume it is because they do say that Alliance tend toward a lower participation rate to
Mhm.
BGs. But they don't really, in their goal list, you would think you would say, we
Well,
would like
but
to
hold on
increase.
though.
Yes.
I
Alliance
don't know if
participation.
you've I don't know if you've noticed this because you haven't been PvPing for the last few weeks, but on Whitemane specifically, I'm not talking about any other server. It used to be like, you have the little horde queuing area and the little alliance queuing area. Well, the horde area used to be packed all the time. It's still packed. But now the alliance queuing area is packed too. And it was a little just there'd be like 4 people standing there queuing. Like, and now it's just like
Right, because people didn't know what they
everybody's
were going to
there.
get
So
from the
that's all.
boxes,
Yeah.
though.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
that could be it.
yeah, it goes back to what we were talking about last time, where when you have a short period of time, like Horde versus Horde, they're like, wow, look how many Horde were PvPing during the 5-day test. Well, it's the only time they were able to
Right,
PvP, so of
right.
course they were. I have a big problem with the way this test is being done because
Mhm.
to me, it sounds like, and I could be misreading this, but having the matchmaker take a little time to find an opposite faction match is like an alliance buff, quote unquote. It's making the horde have
Right.
to wait for alliance a little longer. Groups will be restricted to a maximum of 5 players. I think we all agree, and even the horde were complaining that alliance premades were not the problem. Horde
Oh,
premades
yeah.
were the problem.
100%.
So this breaks up horde premades, making alliance want to try a little bit more, and then adding an enlistment bonus for alliance. So 3 of these things I mean, I'm going to take away the first one. Those last 2 major parts seem to be about alliance participation in PvP. So why would they also still have same faction battlegrounds in this test? They should just be testing alliance queuing up more
Yeah,
and
they're putting
seeing
Yeah.
if
too
that
many
helps fix the
variables.
queue. There's so many. Well, how do you even measure what the
You
queue
can't.
time would be
Right.
with
That's
just
the thing.
alliance incentives?
They're changing too much at once,
It's
right?
classic
Where
Yeah.
Blizzard though. Even
you
in
can't
Overwatch they do
identify,
that.
but you can't identify what the like reason for the change is unless after this they take one away at a time and see if it changes it, right? But my biggest thing is that it's just like the goals that they listed, like these are goals related to, what we want to accomplish. These other things are supposed to say, hey, we want to increase alliance participation in BGs. When in reality, they're just saying, alliance, don't be pissy that we're giving Horde faster queues, right? Like they're trying to mitigate the pushback from alliance. That's why they're giving alliance these extra things. And they're just trying to come out smelling like a rose where everybody loves them.
Yeah. And again, I hate to go back to like I don't think it's a valid excuse to just say, hey, this is something that is a retail thing. But I think it's fair to say that the Alliance loot box is almost exactly the same as when LFG came out. Actually, I think it was in Kata. They had to initiate a reward system for tanks and occasionally healers, depending on how many were queued up. You would get a reward bag if you queued up for LFG solo as a tank, sometimes as a healer, in order to incentivize them to queue up for random dungeons more. So I'm confused about
Didn't
how
you say that
this.
reward bag was way too? Did you say you got like the mount or whatever
I
from
got
one of
Baron
those?
Rivendare's mount out of
Yeah.
it. So
I
you
mean,
got.
that's a little
So,
too much.
but okay, to be fair, I did hundreds of dungeons, but you could get the chance of getting those sick things was sick. But my point is, address player concerns in a way that capture the spirit of the original game design and emulate the pillars and intentions of the original Burning Crusade game systems. That's all.
That's all.
I'm glad they're testing
I rest
incentives
my
for
case.
Alliance because again, I think we're beyond what they're outlining in their goals. We're already beyond the intentions in original like game design. They should have just put those 2 middle ones in. All they want to do is leverage modern tech to address modern issues, which premates are not a modern issue, and then make surgical changes to the game to improve player experience. That's it. That's all they're doing. Those other like, oh, we want to capture the game spirit. Why are we lying to ourselves about this? They are just trying to address these issues, and they're doing
Which
it
is
surgically,
fine, which
which
is
is
fine.
totally fine. It's just
Yeah, that's
like
my
funny
thing.
that they added those
I
other 2 things.
Right, that's
the
what I'm saying
devil's
is, like, it's
advocate.
totally fine if they would've just said that.
I do appreciate them trying something different though. I've got to give them that. Like, whether or
Oh
not I
no,
agree that
I'm
it's
glad
smart
that
or not, I appreciate them giving it a try.
the
I'm just trying
messaging in
to
this is also
give
still
them.
better.
Yeah, it is. Oh yeah, for sure. I'm also, for their Monday morning, staff meeting where they listen to Warcraft Reloaded, I'm trying to give them, some constructive criticism and feedback.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yep. Hey guys, happy to see you on Monday at the Blizzard morning meeting. We know you're listening.
If you'd
we
like a little more information about SMART goals, just hit me up. I got you.
we still
Now
we still love you.
my last point on this entire thread. Maybe it's not my last if people have more to talk about. I took a screenshot of this actually because I was looking at it on my phone right before the podcast. And this is a comment. I'm not going to name any names, but here's a comment on the Wowhead thread about these changes that were implemented. Keep in mind,
Skip
we're
loves
talking about like
Wowhead.
10 or less gold per hour from these loot boxes. And then they broke down pre-maze, which should help everybody involved. It's amazing how uncreative Blizzard have become when addressing a problem, aka something poor Mo or over the Alliance faction. Player community. What about Horde? Blizzard, yep, no need to change anything. The mud huts are still standing. Hey, Horde versus Horde, reducing your queue. This is
Right.
all these PvP changes are such insanely Horde favored. For Horde to complain about a tiny loot box that contains 4 total gold for having to win a battleground is
Right.
like how in your own Horde echo chamber can you be that you honestly think that you're getting the worst side of these PvP
Yeah.
changes?
Bro,
Right.
you
I
can go
also
out in
would
the
not
world
care.
and farm much easier than we can.
That's
So,
true.
and you can
I also
make
would not care if
you
they
can
had
make
a
5 times as much.
yeah, if even if they had something like our little enlistment bonus. Like, do you think that them having it as well as us having it is going to motivate Alliance less to do it?
None of it even matters if there's Horde versus Horde. I think
Right.
the problem is that like there's no reason to incentivize Horde to do more because it just makes the problem worse, which is why I would have liked to see a trial of just incentivizing Alliance. Because if Horde queues were 15 minutes this past weekend for Arathi Basin weekend, incentivizing the Alliance to just play more throughout the week with a loot box and with not running into
Hmm.
pre-mades more often. I want to see if that alone, what the queue times would have averaged out for Horde across this week. That would have been
For sure.
interesting. But now we won't really know, and maybe they'll try to say that we do know. But the reality is we won't know. They'll
You won't.
say something like, "Oh, well, this many Alliance were queued," blah blah blah. But they won't have real numbers because everything's different because of Horde versus Horde matchmaking. It's also
Yeah.
muddied. It's just weird. I appreciate them trying a lot of different things. They could easily just implement Horde versus Horde, and it's not
Yeah.
like there's anything we could
Tell
do
us to
about
deal
it.
with it.
Yeah, and I guess my last point is in this they talk about how the discrepancy between Horde versus Alliance populations isn't as bad as people make it sound, but that's just so disingenuous. They know
It's I
that's not
mean,
true.
it's absurdly bad
Because
across
they're including
PvE
PvE
servers.
servers.
Yep.
Yeah, they shouldn't be. Like it should be 2 separate
Right.
things. PvE servers are dominated by Alliance. PvP servers are dominated by Horde. It's just
That's
a
what I'm
fact,
saying.
and it's a big domination.
But they're stating the fact that agrees with their point.
Yep.
And they're not including the details that we all know are true. And not everybody knows they're true, right? But like we know they're true. We know that PvP is more populated by Horde and PvE is more populated by Alliance. Now, that's not every single server, but as a whole, you put them all together, there's more Horde than Alliance, right? Um, and I think that's the problem. But again, they're at least attending to us and making changes and trying to make it a more pleasant experience for both Horde and Alliance. And so I do appreciate the effort.
Well,
A for
Yeah.
effort.
let me end us out with something I think all of you can agree with, and I think the listeners at home can agree with, and hopefully Blizzard at your Monday morning meeting, you might agree with this. Just double honor gains, dude. Like, come on. Just double honor gains and double bonus honor. So like not kills honor, double bonus honor, so that the emphasis is on winning the game, not being in the fight. That might make people actually guard, because winning the game means more than you being in the fight, getting that.
Yeah.
Because I mean, an Eye of the Storm where I guard, I'm probably losing 75 honor to 100
Mhm.
honor that I could have got if I was in the main fight. If you
Right, which is a
double
lot of the motivation
bonus,
for people not to stay
yeah, if you
and play
double
the objective.
bonus, then people are going to be like, okay, I'll guard. Like, because the
Mhm.
bonus honor is way more important than the kills honor. Maybe I'll just go ahead and guard, and that's good. So just double the honor. Like, it really is, the grind to get all of your gear is absurd. So just make it a little more appealing. And yeah, I think we could all agree that that would be a good change.
It was a lot. It was a lot. I think that people have this weird misconception about how much honor Alliance can grind, but it's really not that much honor per hour. Like, like even when things were imbalanced, the amount of honor per hour you could get as Alliance when you're running into Horde pre-mades like exclusively, honestly was pretty abysmal still too.
Abysmal,
So
yeah.
Yeah, I
it's a
mean,
really rough grind.
yeah, Ale came on countdown when you were on it last or this week at the start of the week. It was like, I've been doing it on my Alliance, dude. It's been abysmal, you know. That was before this test started. But I mean, it's, like, the grass is always greener on the other side. Like, I guess, like, we'll just end it at that. We're gonna move on because we
Well, I
could
saw
talk
an
about this
interesting
for
thread
hours.
as a last thing. I saw an interesting thread, and I don't know if it's true or like where it came from. But someone has a screenshot of the costs of items, and he showed that at launch, the costs of the PvP items were cheaper than they are now. And I don't have any definitive proof of anything, but he had a screenshot and he showed an old comment of his where he outlined the fact that he could get his entire 5-piece blue set plus the 20 Resil trinket, the better, you know, CC trinket removal, for only 1,850 extra honor than the 75k cap. And he showed a screenshot of those items
Well, I
being
mean,
worth less than they are now. And that was really bizarre because I didn't check like week one. But it was like the 12k items, like the gloves, were only 10k, and then like the 18k items were like 15 or 16k. And I just thought that was really bizarre, and I don't know
that
what happened
actually
there.
I
would
think that was
make.
from
Hold
beta,
on, hold on.
right?
No. That actually would make complete sense because at the start of launch, we had season 2 honor rings in. So I wonder if it was like, because I'm pretty sure with each season, all of that other gear goes down in price. So I wonder if we were
I
on
thought
the
it goes to
season
gold.
2. Some of it, I believe the blue set goes to gold in season 3. I could be
Oh,
wrong,
season 3. That definitely could be the
but
case.
this
Well,
could be that those were the prices for season 2, and that's what they were set on that first like day or two before they caught it.
yeah. The thing is, he wasn't just claiming that they were cheaper. He said on his main he bought the entire set. Like he went through it and he knows for a fact they were cheaper because he bought them on his main with the 75k saved up. And I just thought that was interesting. I don't
Well,
know
Le
what's up with
Carpatron,
that.
Le Carpatron from our guild, who we trust and know, does say he can confirm that the belt price went up.
That's interesting. I don't like. I
My
don't.
guess is
There
that they were
certainly weren't any
set.
patch notes on
Yeah,
that.
my guess is that they were like, with that ring problem, they were set to the actual prices during season 2 and not during season 1.
And people got away with it.
This is all speculation, folks. We have no idea
All
if we're right or wrong.
speculation.
You could send us your actual evidence. We'd love to see. And
Yeah, definitely something to think about. But that I think covers
yeah, I think we can
that.
move on. We can move on to the Midsummer Fire Festival and Spirit of Competition in Burning Crusade Classic. So this is something I participated in way back when. I got my tabard today. You just have to win a BG and you get the tabard. Now, I want anybody who knows to write into me. The tabard that I got today, I feel strongly that it does not look anything like the tabard that I got in Burning Crusade. I feel like the tabard I got in Burning Crusade was like super white instead of like a more of a off-white that the tabard is I got today, and the Olympic rings in the middle were like pretty sketchy. Like it was a pretty ugly tabard. But the tabard that I got today feels like the higher res version that they maybe added in the game later. Because it looks actually pretty cool and I'm wearing it now, but I don't remember it having the edges or anything. And so I'm just curious about that. But
I mean, would you be upset if they added in like a
no,
better
no, no,
version of
no.
the
I'm just
tabard?
No
curious.
changes.
Yeah, no, I'm just
Oh God.
I'm just curious because I was like, oh, this actually looks good because I remember it just looking horrible. Like somebody just they got the non-artist in the office to just make a tabard real quick type of deal. But I could be completely wrong and remembering wrong. But just to tell everybody about what the Midsummer Fire Festival is, it's an event. There's a whole bunch of different things you can get. If you are level 70, I would say do your dailies every day because it's almost 12 gold a pop on each of them, and they're pretty easy, except for the flame torch toss thing. If there's multiple people doing it, it is a pain in the ass. But like the first one's not. You only have to do it like 4 times, but then the daily is like 10 times, and it's like okay, you have to keep running to these different spots and tossing it. But the other one's super super easy. It's a easy way to get, if you have multiple tunes at 70, it's just an easy way to get free gold. There are things that you can't get later, like the brazier of dancing flames. This little thing where it's little, I don't know if it's a girl or what it is or a nymph or whatever, but it dances around. It's something you can buy with the currency you get from the dailies and from the quest. This also comes with a hoon, who is a optional boss in the slave pens. He actually drops gear equivalent to the badge vendor. You can do him once a lockout in once a raid ID in heroic and once a lockout in regular. So should definitely check it out.
And for all you tanks out there, everything in there, all of the necks. So the necks only drop from heroic. So you can do it once per day for a neck. You can do it 5 times. You can have a whole group and go summon them 5 times in normal if you want. But he doesn't drop the neck and maybe not the scythe. I'm not sure about the scythe. But the necks are badge equivalent, like you said. Unless you're a tank, there is a neck that's unbelievable that a lot of people need to go do this immediately on. So the badge neck normally is like 19 agility, 33 stamina, and like 22 defense, something like that. Well, this one, the same defense, same stamina, except it's 19 hit rating. There's
Oh
no
wow.
neck anything like this out right now in this phase of content. It's actually unbelievable that this is in the game right now for us. So you should be trying to do this every day if you're at least a warrior tank. I don't know about it. I don't think Drew is as hard as a time for hit as we do. But warrior tanks have a really hard time with hit unless you're incredibly lucky with your gearing. But it's 19 hit on a neck with defense stats and stamina on there. There's nothing else that's going to give you that benefit currently in the game. So it is very much worth doing. And I haven't done it myself yet, but I hear that it is doable while in PvP spec. You don't need like a real tank to be able to just go in and do just that boss. So if you have 4 friends who also might want those necks and don't feel like doing a full slave pens, you can just all go in there, kill him, and then walk out because I think he's like in the first room or something.
And let's be fair, slave pens is super easy, like to do
It's super
regardless.
easy, but it's just so boring.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
Well,
skips you
Yamsearch
can
also
do.
mentions that if you seek out as many of the elders as you can, they give you coins that you can turn in, and you can get the second best healing and
Wait, I
mana
thought that
regen
was
food.
no, I thought that was a different event. The elders, yeah, that's a different event. The elders and the
I don't
coins and
know.
all that stuff.
Okay.
Am I
I was
crazy?
just reading Twitch chat.
Am I wrong?
I thought
I
it was
don't know.
Yeah,
as well
and in
too.
chat, Vol helps me confirm what I thought. Yep,
That's the other.
Yam was was mixed up. It's a different event. You
Lunar
can get
Festival.
buffs.
It's the Lunar Festival
Yep.
that the elders appear for.
And you can get buffs too. We'll put it all in the show notes. There's a lot of different stuff you could do. You can go to, if you're Horde, you can go to Stormwind. I've killed a bunch of Horde in Stormwind today while doing the dailies, because you have to steal the other person's flame. So if you're Alliance, you go to the Undercity, and so that's kind of interesting. So there's a whole bunch of different stuff you could do. We'll put it in the notes for anybody that wants to check it out, but you should definitely do the Ahun summon, because it is really good.
Is the enchant that you get from that any good? The
Yeah, I
Death
don't
Frost?
believe
Death
so.
Frost, I don't know.
No.
It like slows casting and attack speed by 15%. I don't know if it's any good, but this
Yeah,
is the only time you
chance
can
to
get it,
inflict
I
the
believe.
150 damage.
Yeah, it's the only time you can get it, so you should try to go get it. But
Yeah,
I
just
don't
in
think anybody
case,
uses
like,
it.
I don't think anybody used it in TBC, but who knows? Like, there's a lot of stuff being figured out that was different or wrong, so maybe it turns out to be really good. So why not grab it?
Somebody said that the 3% crit buff from the bonfires can be used in raids.
Oh, that'd be
Get those
interesting.
world buffs out of here.
Well,
There's also
that's
buff food and stuff too. So there's a whole bunch. We might talk about it more later when we actually understand. But the food buff and stuff like that is the same as the Valentine's stuff, 14 days. But I believe they've put the change in now that actually makes it so you can't save those forever on an alt. So it used to be in-game time that it would tick down, and I believe that it's changed to real time. So I think that'll be something you can only use for a short time. All right, guys, let's move into discussion. I don't even know
I wanna
how
start.
you okay, you
I'll
start.
start not with my point, but just a legitimate warning. We are going to be talking about the lawsuit that involves sexual harassment, a lot of sexism, discrimination going on in Blizzard. You might not be down for that conversation or feel like hearing about that. Now that's pretty much how we're ending the show. So if you're not interested in hearing about that, feel free to tune out. We're not going to go into like super graphic detail about a lot of the stuff that was going on. I don't think you can read all about it. There's a Polygon article. There's all kinds of articles, honestly, if you look it up right now.
Yeah, we'll link a couple articles in the show notes too.
Yeah, so if you're not down to hear about this, which is totally understandable, then definitely a good time to tune out. So that's the only way I'm starting it.
All right,
Yeah.
so basically, okay, so there's been a lot, over the past couple years, there's been a lot of like he said, she said type of things, talking about sexual harassment, specifically content creators at events. There's been people who have been, it's been proved wrong, it's been proved right, or it's just there's no proof or anything. But this is a little different because this is the state of California actually coming after Blizzard, and they let it be known. We didn't know this. I guess Blizzard did know this, but we didn't know this. It's an investigation that's been going on for over 2 years, and there's a lot of really, if true, a lot of really vile and scary things that were said in here, and a lot of like a specific big name announced in it. I don't even know where to really start. Like, all I know is that
I mean, I can start.
okay, you start, because like it just feels weird for me to talk about it. But I just don't know how to feel. Like, I feel like if this happened, like it really upsets me to the core. But Mel, you go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I want to start with I don't think that there's any doubt that there's legitimacy to these claims. Like, yes, I agree that, you know, they need to go through the justice process and stuff. But I think that for them to get enough evidence to have a 2-year investigation to put these claims out, I don't think there's any doubt that there's some, legitimacy to this. The the other thing that I want to start with is this is a very, very large company and these things are happening there and it's going to get a lot of news. But the sad thing is these things are happening everywhere. And nobody's gonna do a 2-year investigation on the little, you know, small company that these things are happening at it as well. So I just want to point out that this isn't something to be taken lightly. Do I think that you can take everything within the suit as 100% like happened and there's no argument? No, probably not. I think there are some things that on their own wouldn't have caused a 2-year lawsuit, but they add to the environment and the culture that was developed in this situation. What I don't know is this is a suit towards Activision Blizzard, which is fine because I do think that they facilitated this culture being allowed, right? But you can't say everybody at Activision Blizzard was a part of this or was involved in this or knew about this, right?
Yeah, or
And you
even
can't even
new.
say every executive was a part or knew or did this. Now, the comments about HR not being an approachable place where you could voice these comments without worry for your job, that's very upsetting to me, right? Like, that's HR's job is to be that person that you can go complain to about something and they can help you work through that and not judge you. Like, that is HR's job. And that, like, I'm not blaming HR, but I am because these things happen everywhere. And if you don't have some way to report this and to make these things stop when they do start,
And to feel
then
comfortable reporting them too.
correct. That's what I'm saying is like, it seemed like there was retaliation and it seemed like it was just the expectation that you would not do that. And for that to be the case, then that's just facilitating this culture. And I don't know if maybe HR was being suppressed, right? Maybe the person at HR that did report this to the higher ups, they got fired, right? Like, I don't know that. And I want everybody to think about that when they're looking at this and pointing blame and pointing fingers is that it's not just one person, but it's not everybody. And there probably are people that were there that weren't doing any of this. And just because they were associated with this doesn't mean that that was how they acted. Um, that being said, I think that the fact that it was allowed to any extent and the fact that it was very high ups that were engaging in some of this behavior is extremely disappointing and extremely like repulsive, right? I guess that's the best word I could use for it is that I'm not the person that says every time somebody calls for sexual harassment that it should be legitimized, right? I do think that there needs to be some proof, and I don't want people getting, you know, famous for being the girl that, said this happened to me and they got fired, right? Like, I'm not saying that happens all the time. I'm just saying it does happen. And it's the reason that rape cases are so hard to prove is because it's a he said, she said. And there's a lot of sayers that are just saying it and they don't have any legitimacy behind it. And that's upsetting and that hurts the people that it actually happens to. And that's not a good thing. But what you can do is you can blame Activision Blizzard for allowing this culture to spew and to spread over their company. And yeah, they probably didn't see everything. They probably didn't hear everything. But if you're the boss, you're responsible for everybody underneath you. And no matter what they do is a reflection of you. You get the credit when they do something great, and you take the blame when they do something bad. And you have to know that going in, and you have to develop rules and culture around what you're looking for. And I'll end my soapbox there.
Well, and something you talked about rape. One of the things that was talked about in there is men at the office would openly joke about rape, and it sounded like they were talking like joking with her about raping her, but I don't think that that's what I'm guessing. I am speculating. I believe that it's the thing that I know each and every one of you who play WoW has heard or seen typed. People using the word rape as pwned or owned or destroyed.
Hmm.
Like they say, oh, I just got raped, or oh, I just raped them. if anybody ever does that, please just try and call them out and tell them not to do it, because I have a lot of friends that are girls over my time in college and everything else, and they were raped. And that word cuts like a knife, whether it's used in different contexts or not. So my guess is that the people at the office might have been making jokes like if they got beat in a game or they beat someone in a game and they use that word. Just don't
To
do
be
it.
honest, though, I don't even think it is the only reason Bob came up with that thought. He was very appalled by it, and I was the one that actually said, "Well, it could just be that they were making comments like this, like we hear in
Yeah.
Battleground chat and stuff like that," right?
Yeah,
Like
she brought it up to me.
Bob didn't come up with that on his own.
I thought
I don't
that
want to.
maybe they were doing it to her, and I was like, that is horrible. And then she pointed out people do it all the time. And I'm like, and she knows because I openly tell them not to use that word around me or I'm not going to hang out with them. Like, I do it a lot because of all the friends that I've had that have had horrible things happen to them. And it's hard for me to talk about, but just stop using that word.
Right.
Owned,
The other thing I want
destroyed,
to say,
killed is great.
right. The other thing I want to say about that too is that even if it is used in a, you know, non-intentional way to offend somebody, right? Even if that is the case, it stacks up on how the culture was built, right? Like people may say that in, you know, general chat, right? Or battleground chat or whatever. But when you're in a workplace in a professional place like that,
It's
there's a lot
absurd.
of
Yeah,
things that you
it
don't
shouldn't
say.
happen anywhere,
It
though.
shouldn't happen anywhere. Correct. But even if you're the type of person that it does happen in a private atmosphere, it should definitely not happen at work. And I think Yip brought that point up too earlier when we were talking about it, is that it just shouldn't happen.
Well,
I can't
and
even imagine saying anything like that in a workplace. I think that's the biggest problem here. I mean, there are a lot of individual things going on here. Um, there were people who left the company quietly, who have been
Hmm.
there since the beginning of WoW, who have a lot of specific accusations. If you read the article, you'll find out who some of these people are. There are specific accusations against them, but I think a lot of the stuff about the sexual harassment and the gender-based discrimination comes from what they are calling and what California is calling frat boy culture, where
Hmm.
they're literally acting like frat boys, using the same terminology and language. And uh, in a workplace, though, is where it gets unbelievably unacceptable. I have a few points on this, and I think, unfortunately, I think we have to call out uh, sort of the gaming culture in general. I think that this is where this stems from, where you get a lot of gamers together and they act like gamers, unfortunately. A lot of these people who are kind of like the old guard who started these companies or were there from the beginning set these cultures standards. I watched this video today where maybe in 2010 I personally might not have even seen what was wrong with this particular video, but it was at BlizzCon. I think it was 2010, and a lot of the big names were there. You have Ghostcrawler there still. Um, you have a lot of big names there, executives, and a woman comes up to the microphone and says, "Hey, I love. We have a lot of strong women characters, but I would love to, when are they gonna not look like they're coming straight out of Victoria's Secret catalog?" And the reply that she got was, "Oh, what catalog should we get them from then?" And they joke for about like 3 minutes about what catalog they should get them from and how how else would you see Sylvanas dressed? And you hear a lot of cheers from women when she asks that question, and then followed up immediately by a ton of boos from men in that situation. And I think that that culture just sort of needs to die. I think that it's it's okay if you want to see characters like that, but for one of your customers who genuinely loves your game to ask you a question like that, and then for all of these executives to laugh it off, they make jokes about sexy torrents and what catalog that would come from. without giving a legitimate answer. I think that this is something that just exists, and we could see it back then. And
Yeah.
we, at the time, I think that it was just so much more accepted. I mean,
Hmm.
Call of Duty in high school. I'm sure there were many things that I said back then that I would never even think about saying now.
For sure.
Well,
So the culture needs to grow up from there.
that's
And
that's very different though from what's being accused in the workplace, getting drunk, crawling through cubicles, harassing women. That's very different
Inappropriately touching.
from a
Like,
very pretty girl in a game because
okay, it's
hold on,
different, Bob.
hold on. When was the last time you saw a male character in the game with a beer belly like I've got? You don't see it.
Reinhardt.
See no Reinhardt's is buff.
Oh,
You
he's
see
pretty.
buff dudes, buff, awesome looking dudes that I would love to
But they're
look
not
like.
in
You know,
bikinis. Like
true,
this
true.
even
Oh, good
points
point.
to the fact that Bob and I at one point both had the same
Yep.
cloth pants.
No,
in
no,
World of
no, no.
Warcraft.
Chest.
Chest. He put his chest on, and it's this like long robe.
It's like a
right?
total robe,
I put
right?
the same chest on, and it literally is like a bikini. And I'm
That's
like,
a
what
good
is
point.
happening?
Yeah, and that's in the original WoW. That's a good point of actual discrimination.
I do want to cut that really quick because that's not my point. My point isn't
Right.
about that being bad. It's more specifically about laughing off the concerns of
Well, and that's what I was
women.
gonna-
True,
who
and
are-
they
are
shouldn't have done
talking
that.
about it.
Yeah, they shouldn't have done that.
That's what I
Yeah.
was going to point out, though, is that I don't think that's Yip's point, is that it was more so that this is a culture that has been growing for a long time. And this is where it started. And here's where we are today. And I think that we need to be very careful about this whole like culture shift of being like the cool place to work and the fun place to work. And you get to do this and you get to do that. And not still providing a professional and accepting environment.
Well,
And there are a lot of women that love gaming more so now. Okay, outwardly more so now than maybe ever before, right? Because women in gaming before was laughed off. And there are a lot more women who are in the scene who are doing what, they want to do. And they're trying to be accepted into this community. And so I am sure there are a lot of women that are accepting this because they just want to be a part of the team, right?
well,
And that's what sucks.
and it's like, it's also a point that the gaming industry is still kind of new. Like, okay, so I worked in IT for 15 years, and like the IT industry isn't like super new, but like companies that purely work in IT are fairly new. So I started for a startup company, and one of these posts hit home because they talked about the male workers playing games the entire day and then putting their work on the women's subordinates and just not working the entire day. Well, I actually had a similar thing happen to me at the startup company that I was at. We had about 35 employees. My boss would literally play Call of Duty in the back room with a big old projection screen, and he would play with the other bosses and not do any work for at least 4 hours every day, and it made us so mad. And like I can't even imagine if you're like factoring in, oh, they're doing it because I'm a woman. I bet you're even more mad. Like I was mad
difference
as a
is
male
that-
getting pushed around.
Right. The difference is at that office, think of this situation. At that office, you're the woman and somebody who works right next to you in the same role as you is a man, and they're playing Call of Duty too, and you're not.
Yep.
And that I think is the difference. And I think that there is also something to be said about, equal pay and equal rights and all of that. And that's a much larger conversation that I think is
Yeah, I don't
not
think we need to get into
just
that.
a Blizzard conversation. But I do think that there is something within the video game world that women are trying to get a foot in the door and maybe sacrificing some of their beliefs to get that foot in the door. And in
And
result,
honestly,
we get this.
it's the same in the 15 years that I worked in IT. the women coming into the field had to be perfect and awesome, whereas
Yeah.
some of the dudes, like, they barely knew what the freaking hell they were doing. Like, you could ask them questions and they were like, "Oh, I don't know, I'll Google that real quick." You know, like, but the every woman that I met in IT was a badass, and I don't think that's fair. Like,
Yeah. I mean, I got lucky. I started my job and I was able to have a very strong woman mentor, and I could tell she was jaded
same with my
about
first job.
I could tell that my mentor was jaded about males to an extent, right? Like she had to work her butt off to get to where she was, but she paved the way for me, and it wasn't hard for me. I did not encounter a lot of that. And but I can see it, and I could see it more and more as I grew and developed and, climbed the ladder. And I thank God every day that I had this mentor that could teach me, don't accept this, don't accept that. Like, this is what you deserve. And it never seemed like a huge mountain to climb for me because she had already climbed it. And my field is, predominantly women, but the predominant leaders in the field are men. Um, the old school leaders, right? Like they're all men. And that's hard, right? And I think it was funny. We had they came out with this like women's conference, right? And everybody laughed at it. Like all the males laughed at it because they were like, well, you guys are like majority women, anyways. And it's like, but we're not majority women at the top, right? Like, yes, the field is consisted of majority women, but the top of the field is majority men. And that's a problem. Like, how do we have a field that is majority women and everybody in charge is man? Um, but I think that there's a lot to dive into here, and I don't want to go into everything because I don't think that's what our podcast is about.
Yeah, definitely
But
not.
I do think that we need to talk about what effect do you think this has on
Well, here,
the community and the
Well,
culture?
here, hold
I,
on. Before you get to that, let me just do my last thing here. One of the other posts was males continually scaring and grabbing girls at their sides or on their shoulders. Guys, that was something we learned not to do in high school. You shouldn't be doing it at work. Like, that one was weird for me too. It's just like, why are you touching anybody at work? Like like I I have to be extremely close with a girl that's a friend to actually touch her in any way. So why do you think it's okay to touch somebody who's an acquaintance at work? I don't get it. Like, I watched Asmongold's thing where he was talking about this whole post, and he's like, "Well, in orientation, they didn't tell me I couldn't shit on the floor. So why am I getting in trouble? Because you can't shit on the floor from preschool. Like, these are things that you should already know, and that's the last thing I wanted to put on that. So Mel, you were saying like how this affects the community, and yep, you had a reply.
well, no, I actually had a lot of grandstanding to do. I was kind of waiting my turn
Go
to
for it.
talk about some of my points. So I want to bring it back to the community again because even last week we talked about a leak that was probably not real, was our conclusion, but it could have been. And they talked about being frustrated with woke culture at Blizzard. And I just thought that that was interesting. And I see it in the community a lot where, and this is more retail WoW than classic WoW, where people talk about woke culture infiltrating Blizzard. And what they mean by that is inclusivity is infiltrating Blizzard and they don't like
Right.
it. That's the truth of it.
Progress.
And on a lot of these Reddit threads about this particular issue, um, there were some very odd points being made that I saw a lot about how this is super hypocritical of Blizzard because they don't allow this sort of behavior in game, but they allowed it at their workplace. But to me, that sounds more of like an argument like you're upset that you couldn't act that way in game
Right.
Obviously, this real world stuff is horrifying, but I don't think it's necessarily like hypocritical, as in Blizzard should allow this in game because they allow it. I think that is
Right.
two entirely separate points. I think right now, and sort of to answer what you're talking about as far as the effect in the community, I've already seen a ton of people canceling their WoW subscriptions. A lot of people are boycotting the company. And I think that there's merit in boycotting the company, but I also think there's merit in not. Um, so first, obviously, this kind of outcry happens somewhat during the Hong Kong stuff that was going on, um, and we saw some people leave because of that. I think that this will probably cause more people to leave because this is absolutely some horrifying stuff. I think if you want to boycott and cancel your subscription, that's totally fine. A lot of people might think about this being like, can you remove art from the artist kind of situation? But I don't even think it's that, because at the same time, there are a lot of people working at Blizzard who love WoW, who've put their heart into the game, who are not horrible.
There's a lot of
There are
people I know personally that
talented,
I'm
yeah,
almost positive were not involved in any of this.
there are talented women at Blizzard who have
Mhm.
worked on WoW, and for me personally, I think that keeping my money in WoW, but demanding better of them from Blizzard, is kind of where I'm at. I will not
Well
be
put.
canceling my subscription. I thought about it because this is horrendous,
Mhm.
but at the same time, there are wonderful people there who are not part of this. Like Bob was saying, I mean, we had someone on a few weeks back before for the tournament. We had great people on who
Yes.
Yeah.
don't seem like they're they're frat people who are participating in this at all. So there are dedicated people who also internally want to see this change at Blizzard too, no doubt.
Yeah.
During the Hong Kong stuff, employees were actively protesting as well too, during that thing as well. So I think it's okay to not cancel your subscription. I think it's okay for you to cancel your subscription. There are a lot of people who work at these companies, but we need to demand better from the executives.
Mhm.
And the executives are, like I said, from that like 2010 thing. These are people who are in that culture. I'm really sad, um, especially because there's something I always thought was really cool about early WoW. One of them is Jeff Kaplan, and the other one, who again, Jeff Kaplan isn't named in any of this, but I've always considered him the same as as who I know as Furrer, who's the person who apparently they would call
Was toxic
Cosby Sweet.
as
They would, yeah, but they would call it, they apparently in this they called his apartment the Cosby Suite, which is horrifying. But I always thought there was something really cool about like an overall gaming community where you can go back and look at Jeff Kaplan's post. It's like a famous rant
okay.
now.
But okay, hold on though, because you kind of like put Jeff Kaplan in there that did the Cosby Suite. He's not saying Jeff Kaplan at the Cosby
Yeah,
Suite.
not Jeff Kaplan. Furrer is.
Cool.
How
I
like
just,
Afrasabi
yeah, I
is
just wanted to make sure
the
everybody knew
Cosby Suite
that.
guy.
Okay.
Read the article. If you're listening to us right now, you should read the article so you have the full context of what we're talking about. But both of them were EverQuest players, and I always thought that was really cool
Jeff
because
was
it
one of
felt
the
like we
most
had this.
toxic EverQuest players in history. Going back
Yeah,
to your point of like saying things you wouldn't say at an older age.
and there's some like lore. There's like it's like real life lore that I always thought was cool. Like Jeff Kaplan was Tiggle. He was Tiggle of Legacy of Steel and EverQuest, and now he's working on WoW, and he's someone who helped develop this game. And Fur, who unfortunately left the company last year, he was my Bingo. You guys know Bingo. He's a huge EverQuest player and would always follow the fires of Heaven forums, and that is the guild that Fur, who left the company and has all these accusations against him, was in. And it's disappointing to me because it's like we have this cool community. We have this sort of connection through gaming. And I think that everyone just needs to do better. That's why I want to kind of focus it on the community, because being inclusive and bringing people in is a good thing. When I see people complaining about woke culture, where they have more hairstyles for different ethnicities than retail WoW now, and people are complaining about that sort of thing, I think we need to finally move past this. It's time to. That's what another reason why I would like to stay a part of this community, because it's bigger than just Blizzard and what the executives are doing, where
Right.
we can have functional change. When I joined Vargflocken, I didn't know what it would be like, but I was not going to be put up with anybody acting crazy, making racist jokes. I wasn't going to be down for anything like that. And I think we have a really a good community now because of the sort of denial of that sort of like gamer culture. But yeah, I don't know. I just think that it was cool to have those sort of gaming connections with these people. There's like lore where they were gamers just like us. But it's just sad to see that this is the sort of situation that's going on with these game companies. I doubt it's just Blizzard. I've heard a lot
Yeah.
of horror stories from tech companies, Silicon Valley companies. So I'm sure across the board it's like that, but people need to be better. And I think that if you're not boycotting, you should be demanding better from Blizzard.
Mhm.
You need to
I think
be
we need
demanding.
to see something better from Blizzard, right? And the PR comments that they've given so far have been more insulting than helpful. Um, and I think that's kind of the result of this, right? Is that their comments, and I know they're not going to admit to everything, but if they do, they will keep more people around. If they admit that they're sorry they allowed this culture or this situation to brew underneath them, and they're demanding change and, letting certain people go and saying, we need to portray this. I think that that would go a long way. I think them playing the innocent card is going to destroy them.
Okay. And I kind of want to just get out of this conversation, but I'm going to end it with the execs at Blizzard should listen to their own advice. And the famous quote from Overwatch, and it's the quote that Jeff Kaplan gave when he left the company, is never accept the world as it appears to be. Dare to see it for what it could be. And you have the power to make your company better. We're not saying that it's all true. We don't know. Like, we're going to let the law process go out, but if it is true, shame on you, and please do better moving forward. I think that's all,
And be
guys.
transparent. Be transparent. Let us know the changes you're making, or else I can't support somebody that
I would love to say
allows
that, but
this.
I doubt that's gonna happen. But
I mean,
I
so
will say it.
we're talking about like if things are true or not. The last thing, there's a 2-year investigation. The
Yeah.
state of
There's no doubt
California
in
I'm
is
my
still,
mind.
I'm still
um,
until proven guilty. I
well, yeah,
still have to
no.
say,
Some of the things like specific accusations are one thing that have some
Right.
gray area. We don't know what's going on, but there are things like the investigation found that women account for only 20% of Activision Blizzard employees. That sort of thing, that is just fact. The fact that women of color were never getting promoted, these sort of things are not up for question. Whether or not Blizzard is going to have to pay a certain amount of money or how much they're going to settle for is up in the air, right? This is not a criminal lawsuit against anybody, right? This is
Yeah.
this is for repayment. The only thing that's going to come of this is Blizzard paying money and then it being divvied to some of the people who this harmed.
Right.
That's
But that
why.
doesn't fix the problem.
No,
Right?
it doesn't fix the
yeah,
problem.
we
That's
want
why
the
it's just
problem to be
important to point
fixed.
out that like we're not even hitting on all of the things that they are under fire for. Discrimination against women of color, like I said, we barely have touched in that. But some of these things are just undeniable. There's a really horrible horror story in here.
Yeah.
But read the article, and
Yeah, we're definitely
it's
not
time to
hitting
hold
on.
Blizzard accountable.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So sorry to leave you guys with that bummer of an end. Hopefully, if you didn't want to hear about it, you tuned out. Oh, guys. All right. A happy place. Let's move on to the add-on of the week. And did you have an add-on this week, Yip, or you want me to use the one
No,
that
don't
I?
let you do your add-on.
Okay. All right. So the add-on of the week this week has actually helped me tremendously because the way things, everything was, crit and all that stuff was percent based back in back in Classic WoW, it was a lot easier. Now we have all these different ratings, and they also change as you change levels. So especially while working up, like it's really hard to look at ratings. Like for instance, my tier 3 set was awesome, working up, but then about level 65, it started to like wane off because that rating didn't account for as much crit or hit or anything else. So I got an add-on called RatingBuster, and what it does is right next to agility, it'll tell you how much crit that adds. Right next to resilience, it'll tell you how much crit that takes off. Right next to it doesn't do easy ones like strength for warriors. That's two attack power per. For rogues, strength is 1 attack power per. But for the weird ones, for critical strike rating, it'll tell you how much crit you have. It's made like working my gear a lot easier, especially hit rating and things of that nature. So it's something I definitely recommend. It'll put that right there on your regular tooltip, and it's been awesome for me.
Definitely sounds very useful.
It sounds very non-useful for me, but thank you for that.
All right, guys.
Good for hit. It's good for hit because I still look at hit in percentage form. Like whenever I think about how much hit I need, I could probably just look up the actual hit rating and have that in my head, but I still just have that 6 to 9%.
You're still only going to know the 1%, and then you have to do math for like the quarter percent and all that.
This would be really useful, especially for hit for me, because it's like, oh, this will give me this much more hit, especially when it's like 16 hit versus 19 hit, and I'm like, is that going to put me over? I just put the piece on, so definitely very useful.
Yeah, it's definitely nice. It's helped me out a ton. But guys, wish we didn't have to talk about that last one, but we usually don't.
Can I give a couple shout outs?
Yeah. Shout it out.
Okay, you guys. So my plea that nobody messages me in game was somewhat heard. Okay? I did get a message from
You got a couple.
Brockna. He said, "Hi Mel, I'm a fan of the podcast. Didn't want you to feel left out, so here's your message from a fan."
So cute.
Oh, I love you, Brockna. But sad.
And then you had another one too.
You need to fake it that it's not a pity message, guys.
It was a 100% pity message.
You have to come on and be like, hey Mel, I didn't listen to the podcast last week yet, but I just wanted to make sure that I told you you're the best. Like,
right? You're so much better than Yep. Like that's what I want your message to be. And to that note, Cadvan did message me. In case no one has told you today, remember you're the star of the podcast. And I would just like to say,
superstar.
Thank you, Cadvan. Oh.
All right. Well,
so yes, if you message me, I will shout you out on the podcast.
Yeah, until it gets to too many, and then you just can't do that.
Nope.
Now I shout out people who go above and beyond to follow me around the BGs and help me.
Okay, well, I've had 2 total. So, okay, give me some slack here.
Slack granted. All right, don't forget to follow us on Twitter at WC Reloaded. You can also follow the Mash Those Buttons Network at the Mash Network. Oh, something I wanted to mention that I forgot to pull up, but I'm pulling it up real quick. There's been a lot of interest in Final Fantasy as of late, and I just want to let you guys know our Mash Those Buttons has one of the coolest Final Fantasy podcasts. It's called Wondrous Tales, so you should definitely check it out. It's been running for a long time. It's one of the more popular podcasts in the scene. You should definitely check it out, and I think you will. I think you will enjoy it if you enjoy Final Fantasy. It's not my bag, but if it's your bag, check it out. We want your WoW stories. We want you to interact with us. We want you to tell us your opinions and your stories. You can send those to wcrpodcast@gmail.com. If you'd like to join the Discord and make that a happening place, you can do so by going to mash.gg/discord. Make sure to ping us because we still don't check it daily until it actually has something going on in it. Oh, how can you help the podcast? You can tell your friends about it. That's the best way. You know, we've had reviews that have said, hey, I checked this out because Willie told me about it, or my friend told me about it, or a fellow reviewer told us about it. Just word of mouth, tell your friends about the podcast, and hopefully you guys have a little something to talk about, how our opinions are stupid, you know, at the water cooler, you know, or wherever you talk about WoW. Also, ratings and reviews, you can do those on Apple Podcasts or on warcraftradio.com/directory. We've gotten a few more there, and it's really cool, and we really love to support the people over at Warcraft Radio. They do a lot for the podcast, you know, Blizzard community. So you'll find anything podcast related Blizzard there. If you're tired of searching iTunes and everything, you can check it all out there. They have bios. You can find exactly what you want. So check them out there. Ryan, where can we find you?
Hi, you can find me on Twitter at CognitivePit or youtube.com/CognitivePit.
Awesome. And Mel, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at MelOverwatch, or you can find me in game on Melarina or Arielina.
You still haven't changed that Twitter handle, huh?
Can I? I never get on Twitter.
Oh, Mel Overwatch, and she hasn't played Overwatch in 2 years.
You can definitely find her more on Arielina because she was PvPing all week and then didn't show up to raid. So.
Oh yeah, no, I wasn't invited yet. Thanks.
Oh, by the way, I told Harskar you were out of town next week, and he felt really bad about not including you in the 25-man because he didn't know you'd be out of town the next week.
Listen, I didn't get on the 25-man this week, and Bob goes, you probably screwed yourself because you talked about it on Warcraft Reloaded, how you didn't need anything from 25-man, and it was kind of a wash.
Oh,
I was like,
man.
I don't care. Like, honestly, like, I don't care sitting 25-man. I work a lot, and, like, he was like, okay, well, I got a raid, and I was like, oh, I don't. And I just, like, sat back and, like, watched my TV show. He was like, Mel, can you, like, turn your TV show down? And I was like, nope.
I got the night off.
Yeah.
Guys got to try. But you can find me on Twitter at Blazzin_Bob. That's BLAZZIN_BOB. I'm going to start streaming again at some point. That's twitch.tv/Blazzinbob. I was sick I was going to start streaming again this week, but I was sick the whole week and barely made it to the Tuesday raid. And so sorry about that, but you can follow me there. All right, guys. Kind of a bummer of a way to leave the episode, but the rest of it was really good and enjoyable. So
Why we don't
it
start
was
the
a bummer.
episode with discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a bummer. So there's nothing we can do about it. We
can't make it a happy topic, like, and we
Yeah.
can't avoid it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
All right, well, guys, we'll see you next week, and hopefully it's happy days.
whoop, whoop. Bye.
All right, you can stop recording.
Oh yeah.
I'll raid somebody here. Who can we raid? If somebody's on. I don't see anybody on.
Yeah.
Not anybody small. Yep, okay, guys. We're just going to end the stream. Love you. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you guys for interacting with the stream, and we'll see you next week.